Having a wonderful day. Martin, I saw your comment over there. And J Rod, James, something in the mail. That ought to be interesting to hear about. It's a very spring like day here in Connecticut. Yes, I said spring because that's what it reminds me of. It's not fall. It's been strange weather up here this year, so we're taking it as we get it. All right. Let a few more folks jump in. Ray, how you doing? And let's see. No guests in the panel yet today. Anybody that would like to be a guest in the panel, as I posted in the chat, send me an email and I will send you the link. Just make sure your audio is good. I've learned that lesson now. We'll get you on the show. RS, how you doing? Ah, Mamiya 645 Pro. Somebody got the film bug again. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Just checking a few other things out, waiting to see if anybody else jumps in here. Again, I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Day, night, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. Okay, so Saturday night, we did a lot of talking about lighting. I know that's something a lot of people want to talk about, and I do as well. I want to do a couple of more of those lighting chats. For those of you that weren't in here, it was all about lighting, and we covered. I say we covered. We talked about so many facets of lighting, not specific in any one thing. And I want to continue that if everybody else would like to as well. And we also talked about the possibility of having uh, a a photo critique, photos that were uh, just done using your lighting, whatever you happen to have. And if you don't have any lighting and you want to buy a speed light and start practicing and learning, we're all about that as well. And a lot of expertise in this community, as you guys know, to help everybody out with lighting. So I want to continue that and have some fun with it. But I'd like to do a photo critique. And when I say critique, I'm not talking about harsh critique or anything like that. But for those that are just experimenting with lighting, or even those that are very experienced, to show what they've done with their lighting setup, have a little critique one night, and for those that are just experimenting and just learning how, an opportunity to learn some more by showing what you've done, and have some of the experts over here in the community talk about what you could do better or what you might want to try and something like that. I just thought it'd be a lot of fun, especially for those that don't play with lights at all. Yaman, good to see you in here. How you doing, sir? Alan from Kent, how are you, sir? Hero shots. All right. Thank you for the notification, gang, there. Appreciate that. All right. Anybody else? I was waiting for somebody that might show up, but they haven't shown up yet. So it'll be a surprise for all of us if they do now. All right, guys. So, anyway, like I said, we were talking about lighting. We had a great time. And lighting is so, uh, there's just so many facets of lighting to discuss. It's hard to do. You couldn't sit down in one show, one stream, and talk about everything there is to talk about in lighting and try to demonstrate it or anything else. So I want to continue those conversations, like I said. And for those that are into that and would really like to, just let me know in the comments or even in the chat so I know how to tailor this. And maybe we can enlighten some folks, pun intended, on just what light brings to your photography. Albert, good to see you. There's my granddaughter, Maddie Moo, Miss Maddie McCrae from Kentucky. She just received her camera. I took her camera down when I went down and had my little trip, and so I'm curious to see what she's captured so far. How you doing, Maddie? Good to see you, baby. Our Laura Moore can't stay, but regarding lighting, my angst is those circle lights that you see reflected in the person's eyes. Let me throw the comment up here. As weird, unnatural circles. Yeah, for ring lights, you get that, or even with sometimes even with a beauty dish, you'll get that. But yeah, lighting is very subjective. Some lighting techniques don't suit everybody. I've got a couple of that I like to play with, and some people like it, some don't. And that's two strip banks on either side to give that little uh, the curved catch lights in the eyes. I think it's really neat. Doesn't apply to everything you shoot, but it's often nice for some of the things that you're trying to capture. All right. Sorry you can't stay, Laura. I wish you could. Uh, James says he has no M&Ms today, but he does have dark chocolate Milanos. All right. I'm not a big dark chocolate fan. My brother is, my wife is. Actually, it's good for me because they lay off my milk chocolate. All right. Uh-oh. Here comes somebody. Here's Mr. Hufoto jumping in the mix. How you doing, Brian?
Oh, not much. I was just actually getting ready to drive to Nashville here in a little bit.
Okay. Well, man, we
So,
don't want to hold you up, but you're more than welcome to jump in here.
no, I've got everything pretty much squared away, and I've got the
All right.
notification. I was like, "Oh boy, what's going on today?"
That's our typical Wednesday talk.
Yeah,
Letting
but
the
now
audience know.
Wednesdays are anything but typical now.
Well, any day's anything but typical anymore.
This is
R-
true.
Roy talking about catch light in the eyes gives away the lighting setup. Often it does.
Mm,
There are a few times that it kind of tricks. You can fool some people with the lighting setup, but
yeah.
most of the time you're right. It's going to give away the lighting setup. Con- Yaman, continuous light.
Oh,
Man,
okay.
Yaman, I have not. I've played with it a little bit. I do have continuous light to play with. Um, that's a tough one. It's new for me, so I'm going to learn if anybody else is doing that quite a bit. It depends on what you're shooting. If you're talking about shooting models or something like that, that's a tough one, man. But for product photography, which of course Roy can talk about extensively, I know he uses a lot of constant light for that. So it's becoming more and more popular, I guess. Constant light for shoot models or modeling or
Yeah.
studio work, but
I
it's
mean,
harder to control. At
it
least
can
my findings
be.
are.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on if you're using a constant light, in my opinion, and how you can modify that particular constant light, how you can control the spill and everything. The benefit of it is if you're using constant light, you literally see the photograph in front of you. I mean, it's fantastic for teaching if you can modify that light because you can literally move the light and in real time see the effect of what you're going to get when the light moves. But you need to be in an area where you can control the ambient light. I've got photographer friends that have used constant light on location, and the problem they ran into was their constant light wasn't strong enough to overpower the ambient light for where they were.
Well, there are
So
several
there's
hurdles to
limitations.
using
Yeah.
constant light, no doubt
Yeah.
about that. Controlling the light spill, and everything else, and you can use all kinds of modifiers to do that. The power of constant light is can be an issue as well.
Mm,
Your shutter speeds aren't going to be near as fast, and if you're trying to capture color with constant light, that really becomes an issue,
super
especially if the
tricky.
lights are pointing back to the camera because it's just going to
Yeah.
look white. But I mean, it's still it's a viable option. A lot of people are doing it. I haven't watched enough people demoing their use of constant light for photography yet. Um, it's if anybody's experienced with it and is playing with it and has some photos to share that where they've used constant light. Aperture seems to be the big light right now because of the cost. You know, it's not cheap, but it's very quality light for photography, mostly videography, but a lot of people are buying aperture products for that very use. So, yeah, it's something to play with. No doubt about that. Albert
That's
says
just
he
another
loves strip
toy.
banks.
Yeah, strip banks are super fun to play with. I love having two of them
Yep.
for edge lights and stuff. That's super fun. You can add a lot of drama to a photograph using the strip lights.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I
that's
don't know if I answered your question, but maybe we get some more people in the chat in here that have
yeah,
played with it and they can talk about it. Kevin Nordstrom, welcome.
J Rod photo. That's a really good question. Um, I struggle with this question every day, to be honest, especially in the cosplay photography world, because most cosplay photographers shoot the green screen where they bring in the artificial background behind the person to put them into a fantasy world and stuff like that. I never like mine, and I don't know if it's because I know that it's not real. Um, but I've never I've had very few times where I've replaced the background behind someone and been happy with the final image. Now, does it make it a photograph? Oh man, this is a contentious subject. Is
Well,
it
it's
a
look, all photography is art other than documentary photography,
Yeah,
period.
he's asking though if
Even
it's what was it? Is it photographic? Is it still photographic art?
absolutely.
Yeah, in a way, but in a way too, if the graphic design of it overpowers what little is left of the photograph, I think there's a balance. I think there's a
Do you,
balance.
well, my question is, do you need a camera to do it?
Yeah, see, absolutely.
Okay,
You've
so
got
there
to
you
have a
go.
camera to do part of it. So yeah, it's
There
still
you go.
photography.
It's still art too,
Yeah.
you
Oh no,
know.
for sure. It's just a different form of art, but absolutely, it's
Yeah.
still art. Yeah, and I'm having to come to terms with. I used to years ago. I would shoot and everything was straight out of camera because I thought, that's what you're after. That's what you're. And then I started realizing this is like being a mechanic and saying, I'm not going to use pneumatic tools because my dad didn't have those. He just had wrenches. So I'm just going to use these. And I had to realize that if I freed myself up to use newer tools just to make my craft better, they're just tools.
So I
Photoshop's
don't.
just a tool.
Yeah, just like anything else, just like the
Yeah,
dark room
just a
was
tool.
for film.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But I had to come to that on my own. No one could really tell me that. I had to just come to that. And I think that's where we come into photography as a journey. Every one of us are on our own photographic journey. And it's great to give these pointers and give these helps along the way. But to tell someone
So
their journey is wrong, I think is really damaging,
yeah, and
you know?
that's I was kind of some of the things we were talking last night, or I was in the chat. Had a phone call I was waiting for from overseas. But anyway, we get into these philosophical
Yeah, see, there
discussions
I go again.
about film, about DSLR, about mirrorless. The bottom line is, see, all that takes away from the art of photography. All that takes away from the fun of photography. Do we even need to discuss those things? I mean, I guess we can, but it turns into a battle over which is or was the best.
Yeah,
And
and
why
it's
does
all
that
part of
happen?
the yeah, it's all
Why
part
do
of the discussion.
we're not even talking about the photos anymore. We're only talking about the technique to get the photo.
Yeah.
So, you know, take what you want. It's the final product. Isn't that
Mm.
the real answer? The final product is what, you know, tells the story or, is something to look at or whatever. So I don't know why we get into that so often. And, I'm all for it. Anybody wants to shoot film, they want to sketch, they want to do whatever they do. That's fine. Again, what's the final product? And do you like it? and do others like it, and
Yeah.
that's it. Um, Ray Powell was asking, does anyone still use onboard flash anymore? And yeah, people do. Wedding photographers still do.
Mhm.
And you need to learn the technique of on camera flash, because you're anybody that just takes a flash, puts a speed light, puts it on a camera with no modification or no bouncing or using the light creatively or whatever, is going to run into the deer in the headlights scenario where their photo is just, I mean, it's obvious it was just a flash. Although supposedly in the new hip world, that's becoming a thing again. The deer in the headlight flash look. So
Well, like our mirrorless camera, the Z6 and the Z30, none of these have pop up flash on them, so that's going to be interesting.
well, yeah, but just a speed light on, a
Yeah, yeah,
camera.
yeah. Right.
So yeah, I'd say people still do, Ray, and there are ways to use it creatively. And this is why when we talked about lighting a while back, you get so caught up in lighting and everybody wants to talk about all the different techniques they have and everything. And it's hard to get back to, how does somebody that's never used lighting learn how to use lighting if everybody's talking about strobes and constant lighting and things like that? And if all you have is a speed light, you can master that and do great things with it. And it will
Mhm.
surprise you as to what your photos look like by adding light, whether it's on board or not. And but how do you start with a speed light mounted on a camera? Can you use it creatively? Yes, you can. But it's more than just a few minutes conversation. And that's why I think these little lighting chats that we have are going to start having will help a lot of people out and get them interested in lighting. And then, then it becomes a money pit. I'll tell you right now with lights and
Yes, it does.
modifiers.
It
But
does.
at least you'll understand what light does for photography. We know how to do it when it comes to natural light and looking for light outside and things like that. But uh, there's so much you can do with artificial light, speed lights, strobe lights,
Yeah.
constant lights, and things like that.
And I didn't
And
have
yeah,
time to leave the studio yesterday, but I did break out the speed light and
hmm
the little accessories that I've got, little domes and grids and
yep,
things. And I grow peppers here in my studio, and so I just broke out the macro lens and just had fun taking and moving the strobe all the way around different positions to see, where I like the light coming from. Did I like it better with a grid, without a grid, and just sit there and let myself play and make a bunch of worthless images, just having fun.
yeah. And Roy brings up a good point too. On-camera flash is only good for a little fill. Well, that's so true, Roy. And you've got more experience than I do. And triggering other lights, which is another thing that we didn't talk about. Using a
uh,
speed light to trigger off-camera flash,
these
and it's
things
not
are
as
so
difficult as
cheap.
you think.
Yeah, these things are so cheap now. This is the X2T Godox trigger. This is what I use to trigger my lights. You can drop them, and
But you can use two speed lights without
yeah,
any trigger, and use the
you
speed light
you
itself on
can.
camera to trigger the
And
off-camera speed light.
what's cool is if you go into the slave settings too of your speed light, a lot of times, I wonder if these still, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to look in here real quick and see if there is a way. The old Nikon flashes would do what was called a pre-flash, and you could set your flash on your camera to master and then set your off-camera flash to slave, and then you could set the master to not affect the shot, which meant the flash went off before
Yes.
the photo was taken to trigger the off cameras.
Yep.
And you could do that, and I don't know if you can do that in the new I haven't had to since we have radios now, but I'm very curious to know if they would have that functionality built in.
Yeah, so I would say that on-camera flash or speed lights still have a place, still have a purpose,
Oh,
can be
absolutely.
used
Oh,
can be used in lieu of or lack of any other lighting.
there it
And you
is.
can, yep,
So you
and you
can
can,
actually set this up to where it will trigger other flashes without a radio. They just have to have this IR thing. The only problem with that is this has to be facing the flash to see it. If it's not in line of sight, it will not trigger. So that's why
Right.
the radios are so much easier.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely.
But if you don't have
Radios
them, that's
make
a
it all so much
fantastic
easier.
option. Yeah.
But yeah, um, and again, these are all the questions that people have, and this is where I don't want to go down the path of in the community here of, oh, you don't want to use that. If that's all you have, then let's talk
Right.
about how you use it
Right.
and a starting point. A lot of people don't want to put a lot of money into lighting until they know that they can do it and it makes a difference and they enjoy it. So that's why I was saying early on, just one speed light will change your mind about lighting. Maybe in a bad way if you don't if you don't learn to use it, but all
Right.
of a sudden things come to life with light, additional light. So
Absolutely. Um, Jeff, that's a very interesting observation that a lot of the kids like the harsh, more direct light. Um, if you look at culture and what that light has been sort of, I think, subconsciously linked to, um, 9 times out of 10, who's shooting with these things pointed directly at their subject? It's paparazzi. And so much so that that's kind of garnered the paparazzi look. So a lot of younger people may like that look and feel, and they don't realize that that harsh, direct light is kind of, I think it's subconsciously linked to that paparazzi shot. Um, so that's very interesting.
yeah, Ray, I'd be curious to know, are you still shooting with a flash or do you have a speed light and you just want to play with it some more or what? Because that's the start of it all, an onboard flash. And I don't mean built in. Of course, we had that
Right.
with DSLRs, not all.
Yeah.
Nikon began to take away the onboard flash, but a speed light, a cheap speed light, and they are relatively cheap now, definitely can make or break you even at times. So, but you can use it creatively and it can look good if you just practice, play with it, and know how to use it. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
uh,
Roy, I agree. That CLS system back in the day, Nikon's infrared trigger system that they used was just killer. I absolutely loved it. After watching, there was a video that Joe McNally did in the middle of the desert where he was shooting with like 6 or 7 speed lights, and it was so great.
yeah, the CLS was a great system, and I know a lot of people when it went away, or not went away, but I mean, obviously it's gone now with, by the way, with the Nikon dropping their speed lights or not. Of course, they still sell them. I guess you can still buy a new 910 or something like that. Obviously, you can buy a lot on the used market, but there's just so much about lighting. You could have a whole channel that's dedicated to doing
Oh
nothing
yeah,
but constant streams about lighting
absolutely.
and never get to the end of what's, possible. Yeah, yeah, Yaman. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf, man. Where you know what, if it suits somebody, as long as it doesn't, they're not shoving it down my throat. But if it suits somebody, then by all means, go forth and do great things. Be it film, pinhole camera, plates, wet plates, DSLR, or mirrorless.
That
Because
sort of, yeah, that sort
I
of
come
beckons back
back
to
to
last night.
what's the final product?
Yeah.
If it's just about just having the gear or whatever, and I know I talk about gear quite a bit, but the point is that what are you producing with it? If people like it, then there you go, man. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm one that don't want to go back to the wet plate days or the even film days. And when I asked Joe McNally that when he was on the show with Vahagan, would you go or do you miss it and would you go back to film? He said, "Oh hell no, no,
Yeah.
he isn't going back to film." And I mean that says a lot for a guy that's shot film all his life and made
Right.
made a living doing it. Uh, uh, see what Kevin's asking here. Shoot, look at sky replacement. It gets hate in the landscape photography community. I don't
Mm,
use it, but it's still a form of art and photography. It comes down to integrity. Okay, so you're right. Integrity with the photographer,
yep.
and you have to take that with a grain of salt too. I mean, just because a guy doesn't state right up front, "Hey, just so you know, when you look at this, I'll replace the sky," does not mean he has no integrity, in my opinion. If he's asked and he tries to say that, yes, this is the natural sky as I saw it in the photo, blah blah blah, it's a one shot take, and he obviously replaced the sky. Well, that's something you have to decide about the integrity of the photographer. But the point is, again, back to, if the shot is one of those shots that you just can't quit looking at, I don't care how he came about it.
Mm,
He used the camera, even if it was minimal use of the camera, but he didn't paint it himself. He didn't, sit down and draw it. The bottom line is it's up to each individual as to whether they enjoy it or not. I see these comments go on all the time. That's the reason in our photo review, I don't want those harsh, hate comments. You got to find something wrong with it. If somebody wants a critique like that, they'll ask for it. And then it's by all means, serve it up. Well, your
yeah.
composition you could be better. Here's how I would have framed this. The lighting, it's coming from the wrong side. If you could have shot from the other angle, the lighting would have been better, and things like that. But a lot of people just chew a photo up. Now,
Yeah.
you go watch Matt Granger when he does his photo critique, but they ask for that. They're asking for it. And Matt Granger, and I don't always agree with his comments about what would make the photo better or whatever. I mean, often I do, but the point is, you can help somebody without hurting them.
Right.
And
That's
the minute
see.
you embarrass them, then it's over. That's not a critique. It's done.
This is where I'm so lucky because my wife is not afraid to tell me when something I do sucks. And she'll just tell me, "This is
Oh,
no
my
good.
wife
You could have
too.
done better." And that is so valuable. But because too, she can tell me why. She can look at it and say, "This is no good. Here's why you should have done this." And if you've got access to someone that will tell you when you do something wrong or tell you when something's bad, but then also tell you how to make it better. That is such a valuable resource because so many times you throw stuff on social media and it gets 1,000 likes. That means
Well,
nothing.
no, you're absolutely right. And I've said that a lot of
Nothing.
times. If you think because you bought a camera and you take a bunch of photos and your friends and your family say, "Oh, that's great. That's beautiful. That's wonderful." Well, it may not be, because that's
Yeah.
what friends and family do, except for my wife. Like you said, Brian, my wife will let me know in a heartbeat. No, I don't like that. I don't like her
Yeah.
expression. I don't like wow, why has it got to be so harsh looking? She doesn't always take in the art of it either. But the point is that you can't trust friends and family
No.
when it comes to taking photos. They love you. They're going to tell you it's great, and that's that. So
I
you
equate
do
this
need
to.
some outside critique. You do.
You do.
I'll
You really do. Everybody does. I absolutely love having my photos critiqued by people that I know more than I do, and it helps me so much to grow. But at the same time, um, I told somebody one day. I said, "Look," I said, "Have you ever cooked something completely amazing, and someone came to you and said, 'Wow, this food today is great. You should go open a restaurant.'" I was like, and then you just turn around and go open a restaurant. That's how crazy it is that sometimes if someone gets lucky and posts a good photo on social media, and people go, "Wow, that's amazing. You should be a photographer." It's not that easy. And it's really, you
Yep.
have to, but at the same time, to just sit there and tear someone's image down and not give them any constructive way of how they could do better, that's just pointless.
Or
And
do it
yeah,
without making fun of their
right,
their
right.
photo.
I mean,
And
they're
often and do it without showing, having to show that you're an expert, you
yeah,
know, critiquing in a way that I'm only critiquing to show everybody else how much of an expert I am. That's
yeah.
not the way to
See,
go.
no, and
So
that's
so So
I
Roy's
just
talking about
mm,
getting the, get the flash off the camera. Obviously, this is going to be one of the things that you'll want to strive to do. Unless you find some technique with on-camera flash and it seems to, be something that everybody has fallen in love with, maybe a
well,
new
you can,
technique.
yeah, bounce it,
Well, I mean, there are plenty.
yeah,
I'm just saying, if you
turn
stumble
around, yeah,
across something like that, then, by all means, continue to experiment with it. But using a hot shoe extension cable, yep, that's a possibility. And
yeah,
see, these are the things we talk about, and some people don't understand what is that? How do you use it? What does it do? So having these discussions is worthless without examples. When we can talk about it all day long, but it's how do you explain what the photo is going to look like when you move
right,
the flash off the camera by, 20 degrees or more?
yeah.
And the other thing is, so people understand that, flash on camera, what's the biggest problem you're going to have when you're shooting in a dark, a low light situation and shooting people?
Miles, man, you're
The
killing me.
dreaded red eye.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have settings that you can use on flash, on speed lights that will eliminate red eye for the most part. But the point is that you can't describe that to people really. They've got to see it. So
Yeah,
I love this idea too, Roy. Maybe that's something we need to do is, put together a little setup with a hot shoe extension cable and show people how they can shoot with one hand and hold the light with the other. I
that's
mean, how many?
literally what I was
How did
doing
you?
yesterday.
Yep.
And the camera was on a tripod so I could hold my light and move my light around where I wanted it and play with my light.
I think this is an interesting comment from Jeff and Leslie. And
Hmm.
I brought that up earlier only because Vanessa, what's her name? Vanessa, I can't remember her last name, but she's been talking about that a lot lately. She was actually complaining about it a bit. That seems to be the trend that's going on right now is
Yeah.
basically hard light in the face. I'm not
I think
surprised
it's
by that.
subconsciously linked to paparazzi shots because that's who shoots that way.
Yep.
We recognize paparazzi shots just by that hard, direct light, the clean shadows in the background and stuff like that. So I mean, that's I think that's sort of bled into our subconscious.
It could, but again, everything comes back.
Mm,
Everything comes
mhm.
around, goes full circle.
Yeah,
So, and for some reason, somebody, and this could be driven by peer pressure too. Well, John and Frank and Bill and Mary and whatever love, this photo. Well, then I've got to love it too, because I can't be the
yeah,
one that.
that's true. That's true.
Here you go. Another comment on that. Did some bounce, softbox, etc. The harsh light seemed preferable to some of the young people. I guess it is a thing these days. Yeah.
In hard light, if you direct it properly, it's going to kill a lot of imperfections in the skin. If you do it right, hard light can be really cool, but it's tricky. You can do really well and or you can do really bad with it. Soft light's a lot more forgiving. So
Yep.
yeah, Mike, I see that's a good point. Yeah, if they've got good skin, and that goes back to that beauty dish. I feel like the beauty dish to me is such a difficult modifier to wrap your head around. You really have to have it close to your subject, and they better have great skin because it's so specular. It's going to just amplify any imperfection if you get that light in the wrong spot.
Another comment by Jeff and Leslie. Made a softbox for my speed light with a piece of white sheet and some cardboard and Velcro.
Yep,
Have
a
also
30.
used it. Yep.
Yeah, a 30-ounce Subway cup, if you cut the bottom out of it, makes a great snoot, by the way. Fits right onto a speed light. I had to do that once for a shoot.
Okay, so here's Ray's curiosity about the lighting. I'm new to DSLRs and flash. I'm 68 years old. All right, Ray, I understand.
Awesome.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those things that once you pick it up and play with it, it's
Yes.
just fun. You don't have to share anything with anybody, until you take that photo that like, wow, this is beautiful, and then share
Yeah.
it with others, and and find out how you can become more creative with lighting, whether it's on camera or maybe it spurs you to say, well, let me try something off camera. Maybe I'll get a second speed light and use one to trigger the other. Or as Roy was talking about, the slave cable between the hot shoe and the flash. There are just so many things you can do with lighting, and even with on-camera flash, depending on where you're shooting, bouncing it off walls. Uh, it can look like natural light actually in some photos of people.
Yep.
There's just so many things that you can do with it. Yeah, Joe is the king of speed lights, no doubt about it. Let's see. Okay, so James is asking, when using a speed light, how do you keep the lens at f1.8 or a very
Okay.
wide aperture and not overexpose the subject? You want
Jump
for
that
that?
ISO as low as it can go. Number one.
Yep.
And then it depends on your ambient light. You want your flash strong enough to fill in for that 1.8. But if you're
Okay.
outdoors, that's tricky. That's when you start getting into high speed sync and or some photographers like using ND filters. Um, but keeping that f-stop low, and that's another trick. All right, this is a really good question because your flash has got to be able to turn down low enough. And I see a lot of comments being posted right now about the AD200. The AD200 will go down to 1/28th of a second, but if I'm not mistaken, the AD200 Pro will go all the way down to 1/256th of a second. So being able to turn that strobe down, where at the same time uh, being in a place where you can control that ambient light to keep that bokeh in the shot.
So just so others in here that may have the same question, the one thing about speed lights is for this new look, of course, shooting it directly into the face of the person that you're taking a photo of. And that's what I think everybody thinks when they hear about on-camera flash. We're talking about modifiers that they make for these things, modifiers you can make for yourself, or the ability to just hang on a second, change the angle of the flash. Believe it or not, especially in this case, what James is talking about, this little bounce card is built into most flash speed lights. And you can
Yep.
turn this all the way up depending on how much light you need if you're just looking for fill light, and get enough fill light
Yep.
sometimes by just using the card and the flash straight up.
Yep.
You'll also get some bounce off the ceiling. If you have a low ceiling and it's white, you're going to get a lot more
Yeah.
uh,
That suddenly that whole ceiling's a light. Yeah.
yeah, but these are the things. This is why I say get a speed light and just play
Mm-hmm.
with it in your
That's so
house.
fun.
You just by maneuvering or moving the speed light, and all of them tilt and turn angles. So as I'm shooting the subject in front of me here, right here, I can bounce it off a wall and light the subject. And I get a little creative lighting that way because it's not direct on light. It's very soft. You get wraparound lighting and you get some dimension in the photo, in the face or whatever. So there's just so many things to do with a speed light.
I'm
So
gonna I'm gonna try something, Chuck. I'm gonna try this share screen and see if this works. Because I actually have something here I think that might help with this conversation. Um, all right, so I'm not sure if this is going to work. I've never done this. Okay. So this is one of my Carolina Reapers I photographed yesterday with just the natural light in the room. It's probably got some. It's focused okay, I guess. But you see how shallow that depth of field is for me to use the natural light in the room. I had to use a tripod and everything. This is the same shot adding one speed light. So I've got so much more drama, so much more depth because I was able to up that f-stop
oh,
and get so much more
back,
in focus.
yeah, okay, go put the other photo up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let everybody that decide which photo do you like better?
Yeah,
Which
see,
one
and
has more character,
that's
more?
really where what it comes down to is what, as the photographer or the viewer, which one do you like? I mean, I'd like them both, but in this instance, I really wanted more depth. I couldn't get as sharp a focus as I really wanted with the natural light in the room because it was so low, and I could have moved the plant, but I didn't want to disturb the plant because I loved how the leaves were framing the pepper. You see how the leaves come around naturally, and I just love that. So I was like, well, I'm going to bring in a speed light. So I literally took this light, and this is multiple shots of me just moving the light all the way around and shooting until I just found the one spot that I wanted. And then when I hit this one spot where the light came through the leaves and the leaves still framed everything, I was like, oh, there's what I want. But I just played and never intended to share these or do anything with
Well,
them.
this is one of the things that I was bringing up too, Brian, and audience is just if you've never played with light, again, get you a speed light, put it on your camera, and just walk around the house. Take shots with, where you would typically think, okay, this is great natural light or whatever, and then put the speed light on and try it with the speed light.
This was that was when I did for Halloween. I was like, "Oh, I've got this skull over here. I'm going to put some peppers in its eyes."
So
But
there's just
that's one light.
yeah, there's just so much that you can do. I have a couple of shots I did with the speed light on my camera, and then I took it off and used the trigger. But shooting a wine bottle on a counter,
Yep.
man, you could shoot it all day long with natural light, and yeah, you could fool around and try to find different angles, and it would be okay. But once I put a speed light on, all of a sudden it came to life. And then I got creative. I said, well, let's get another speed light. Let's put one behind it. So the bottle hides it, but it's triggered. And
Right.
then all of a sudden the bottle lights up. And it's like, man, that's like a commercial. Again,
Yep.
these are the things you can do with a speed light. And it's really simple. And especially if you want to buy a trigger for it, and there are plenty of those out there. And all of a sudden, your photography takes on a whole new dimension. It's like, man,
Yeah.
what else can I do? And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so fun too. And I mean, this is just a whole nother reason why I love photography so much is I'll never know more than I don't know. There's constantly something I can learn. There's something constantly something that people can teach me, and it's just I absolutely love that every day I could walk in the studio and learn something that I never thought was possible. Um, that's just one of the things I really love about it.
All right, just saw Mozman in here. Sorry, you know me,
Mhm.
Moz. I'm always so far behind on the comments. It's just so hard to, I could say, yeah, answer yes and no, and we could move on, but we get nothing out of that. And that's why everybody's here so that they can make a comment and, you know, maybe have it discussed as well. Uh,
And
yeah, and
that's
Roy's
what I
talking
love
about here.
about this. The community here has such really good insights and good questions, and there have been questions asked that I've never thought of, and there have been answers and things that I've learned from watching these and everything. So it's phenomenal.
Yeah, so Roy makes a point here talking about the 8200 is probably better
Yeah.
than a speed light, and I absolutely 100% agree with you, Roy. Absolutely. But I keep mentioning the speed light because that's simpler for people and it's more mobile. It doesn't require a stand or anything like that. Not that you have to have a stand. One of the things about photography is you learn to DIY quite a bit.
Yeah.
Sitting the strobe, the 8200 up on a stack of books or whatever you need to do, you can make it happen. But yeah, I agree with you. You get a lot more use out of an 8200 than you will just a typical
And
speed
the
light. But
8200 Pros are on sale on Amazon right now for $40 off.
that's nice.
So you can get one for 309 right now.
And what's the typical? And I'm going to go back to Godox and whatever and Flashpoint or whatever. What's
Mhm.
the? I'm trying to think of their model speed.
Flashpoint is the Evol 200 is the same as the 8200 Pro by Godox. Same company makes both of them, and I think there's a Wistro version that's also made by the same company that makes Godox. There is a young no version. I'm probably saying that wrong, of the 8200, but it uses a different frequency and will not trigger with the Godox triggers.
Okay, so there's the 8200, and I'm sure most people know
Yep,
what it looks like. Um, I have it with the bulb instead of the Fresnel head. I just like it, especially if you're going to use it in soft boxes.
that's what
You
I
can
want so bad.
so, but even with this little modifier on it that you can get the kit for the
Yeah.
Evolve system, I mean, it works great. And here's their Zoom Ion. That's one I was thinking about. This is actually a very nice little speed light, by the way. You can buy it for your brand. But again, it just, there's so much you can do with these things. And
Mm.
you can, and once you start building them, don't think that your speed light's done at some point. Well, I've progressed beyond the speed light. No, speed lights come in handy even with strobes for light, color lighting a background,
Oh yeah.
uh, or adding color to a photo as a rim light or something like that. So
Yeah.
you don't
See.
have to throw them away when you decide, well, I'm going to go buy me a real set of studio strobes, whatever brand you choose. 247 Media Group, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you, Amar.
Yeah, he had a
Uh,
fantastic stream last night. I was so grateful to be a part of that. It was really fun, really informative, and we got to see some film photos on there from a gentleman that were just spectacular.
let's see. Yeah, here's another on the Amazon. Mozman talking about Amazon
Hmm.
sells kits for the
Yep.
8200 Pro that come with gels, a reflector, and a few other accessories. And
Yeah.
yeah, just like Roy said, that's obviously it's not as mobile. Again, it may take a few other parts and pieces to really exercise it, but you can't go wrong with one of these. And I don't know how many people are, mine's old, and still shooting with it. So
Oh yeah. I mean,
I
there's
love this
I,
thing.
yeah. That's on my next to buy must have thing is I want to add those to my lighting repertoire because I would love to have 200 watts with me out on location instead of dragging the studio heads with me.
Yeah, here we go. Here's the money pit. And you're right. Once you start down this road, though, I say money pit. I mean, you can turn it off anytime you want. But
Mm,
talking about the little S bracket for the Evolve series or the Godox series, man, it's great. Use a speed light or an 8200, just like Roy's talking about here, and a Bowens compatible light. Or modifier, yeah, man, you're golden. You can use one of these or even a speed light with that S bracket to light a soft box.
mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I do it
it's
every day.
it's one of the things I think I'm not going to say revolutionized lighting, but it definitely brought more affordable lighting to rather than having to invest in a big system or whatever. The cost for it was just fantastic. Yeah, it may not be as robust. I know there were problems initially, but the bottom line is it's a very economical way to get into lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Just tapping into the Godox system. There's so much now that they have. Let me grab the S bracket. Might as well show that too.
Yeah, that's what I was looking on my shelf to see if I had one within reach. The S bracket suddenly makes your speed light the whole world of open up because suddenly you've got all these different modifier options that you have available to you to use. So you can suddenly craft and mold and shape that light. Yeah, with that right there. I mean, that's such a great tool.
Mounts on a light stand if you want, or however you want to mount. But you see the little three places for the Bowens mount modifiers to connect. So, well, I'm gonna. I don't know if I got it opened up enough. I was going to say I was going to stick the 8200 in it. I can take the little modifier off the end of the Evolve
Mm-hmm.
200 and put a softbox on there. or use this little modifier, or I can use the Fresnel head, or I can use, there's just so many things you can do with it. It's so simple. But for a very beginning, if you don't know whether you really want to play with lighting or not, the cheapest way to experiment is always, in my opinion, going to be a speed light, because there is a lot that you can do with a speed light. You can be creative and come up with things without even having people show you, just by experimenting. So a lot you can do with the speed light. And if it trips your trigger and you think, wow, I
Yep.
kind of like this lighting thing, then you can begin to invest in some of the other things. But
Yep.
as Roy said, and I would agree, that 8200 is a great start point beyond a speed light. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish I would have went that route instead of buying speed lights, to be honest, because now I have speed lights and I want more power. And a speed light runs about 75 watts per second. You
Anywhere
know
from
that.
nowadays, if you go from old and latest and greatest, anywhere from 75 to 100 watts. I think
Yeah,
the new Pro Photo is almost 100 watts, isn't it? I'm not sure.
this is so old, but yeah, I love Gary Fong. Gary Fong is another lighting genius. This is his old light sphere that was a snoot that you could Velcro to your speed light. And I forgot this one day, and this is where I came up with taking a Subway cup and cutting the bottom out of it and sticking it on the speed light and wrapping it in gaffer's tape to make one.
And
Uh,
as Roy says, the S mount bracket also, or S mount, the S bracket also
yeah.
will handle a I don't know, you can't see it, but there's a hole right here for the umbrella with a little tension knob on the side
Hmm.
to lock it down. So, yeah, this thing is super versatile. Man, this was gold. I don't know why, again, not revolutionizing lighting, but definitely make it an affordable for those of us that didn't have big bucks to drop into Pro Photo or Electron or something.
And you've got the holidays are coming, so we've got Black Friday and Cyber Monday and stuff,
Yep.
and like those S brackets, they went on sale one day on Amazon for $10, and I bought like five of them just to have them in case one broke or the screw head stripped out or something like that, because they are so versatile. You can do so much with them.
Miles, man, we should get that and M&Ms too.
This is true.
And grits. We talk about grits enough. Um, so Roy's saying he hadn't used strobes in years, and there you go. You'll find once you build up a big repertoire of lights or whatever, that the speed lights sit on the shelf more than they ever did before, and to a point where
Hmm.
you might not use them at all anymore. But the thing is you still can. That's the great thing about the speed
Right.
lights. They're
Yeah.
still uh, they can be optically triggered. You don't even have to have a trigger for it. If you're using strobes in the studio and you just want that one little bit, a rim light or a color added to something, these, as long as the little IR panel in the front is visible to your main strobes, it will fire this simultaneously. So there's just so many things that you can do with strobes. But again, I say, if you know you're going to light, and now's the time I need to get into lighting, then, the Evolve 200 or the AD 200 or whatever, this is just the Flashpoint brand from Adorama. It's just rebranded Godox. So the Godox 200, you can't go wrong with this being a starter. I will say that you'll probably have to pick up a light stand, and then that brings up a whole other conversation about all the things that go into lighting or that you can purchase in lighting. And talking about light stands, then that takes on a whole nother conversation about buy good right up front. You'll save yourself money, or you can do like me and have a whole basement full of light stands that lasted about a month because they're
Yeah,
junk.
I use the cheetah stands. I know they're expensive, but they're designed to do is when you sit them down, the legs automatically pop out. They are fantastic, and I've used them for at least 10 years on location and in studio. They have taken some serious abuse. I didn't pay $20 a piece for them. I paid about $150 a piece for them. But that's one of those things where you get what you pay for when it comes to light stands.
Yeah. T-Mid, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you in here. Paying a
Oh,
compliment to you there,
yeah. Thanks, Timmy.
Mike.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thanks. Oh
Yeah.
man.
So again, we go down this lighting path and we just bounce back and forth and go all over the place because that's how much there is to do in the world of lighting. It's just hard to
Yeah.
find one little thing to talk about and stick to it because then we want to add, we talk about a speed light. Well, let's add the 8200 now. Oh, well, wait a minute. How are we going to actually use that with modifiers and put on light stand? Now we got the S bracket. This is why I say it can be a money pit. Doesn't have to be, but for most of us, it turns into a money pit. Hmm. Anything dealing with Waffle House, I'm in. I hear you, man. I'm not in the land of Waffle House now, but while I was there, I definitely got my share of Waffle House. All right.
That's funny.
I don't need Godox strobes, but now you're all making me want them. I don't need them. I just want them. That's it. There you go, Greg. It's all about the want. The want trumps the need for me always. All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, we had a good conversation Saturday night. It looks like we're back at it here. I didn't know, I know that Saturday night has a little bit of a different crowd than Wednesday afternoon. So I wanted to bring it up and recap what we had talked about. And again, we're going to have at least two more of these full on live stream. Let's talk about lighting. Everybody throw out their ideas and everybody talk about the equipment they've got. Doesn't mean we all have to go get the same thing, but maybe somebody brings up something you hadn't thought of before, that kind of thing. And then I'd like people that, especially those that have never tried flash photography, to if they have the money and can or could borrow even a speed light and play with it for a couple of weeks around the house. DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, the photos are free once you have the equipment. You don't have to get them developed. But the big thing is get the flash out, play with it, and see if it actually makes a difference for you. And
Yep.
you may find that, man, I really want to dig more into lighting. It opens up more paths for me for what I'm shooting. And for all you people that are shooting macro, you know, there are ways to even use a speed light to help you with your macro lighting. And I know that becomes an issue a lot of times. So, hey, Michael, good to see you, buddy. Um, Raining. Let's see. It's raining to where's my 300 days of sunshine from Huntington Beach. Yeah, I would expect you guys would like to have some have some rain out there for a change. Roy, what's Roy commented here? Bang for the buck. Yep, lighting will improve your images more than almost anything else. Absolutely. It's funny that people don't understand that when they say I shoot natural light. Well, when you do, you're always searching for good natural light. Why? Because it makes your photos better. Well, what if you didn't have to search for natural light all the time? You could just bring it with you. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you know what I'm talking about, but bring light with you, and
No,
that's
no,
what
that's what I used to
that's
say
what.
that. I used to say, "Oh, I've brought sun with me. I brought the
Yeah,
sunshine with me. I
yeah,
don't need any light. I don't care what the light's doing outside. I brought my sunshine with me."
yeah. And Mike says, spoiler alert: once you go with flash, there's no going back. I gotta agree with you. Once you have a bit of success, it's just like the golf game. You could have a
Mm,
you hate it, you break your clubs and everything else. You make a 40-foot putt on the last hole on the 18th, and all of a sudden now I can't get away from golf. I had that little bit of success, and that's going to make me continue to get better. And that's the way it is with lighting. You don't start out the greatest person in the world lighting, but it doesn't take as long as you think to get to a point where now that's an addition to your kit. You don't have to use it all the time, but all of a sudden you start thinking of ways where lighting will make something better. Uh, da, 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 da. Looking at the comments. Hey, Huff, take over for a minute. I got to go
I
see what's going on in here. I'll be
there's
right
a
back, gentlemen.
there's actually a guy on YouTube. I cannot remember his name, but just and this is just random. But was shooting on location. Well, he was actually on vacation. He was shooting out by a pool, and his AD 600 fell in the swimming pool. He pulled it out. He did a whole video on how he dried it and everything. The battery was destroyed, but 24 hours later, after putting the hair dryer to it and everything else, he put a new battery in the strobe and it actually worked. And that was, I could not believe that strobe actually still worked after being submerged in a swimming pool. That was pretty amazing. His battery was destroyed, but at least his strobe survived. Yeah, Marcus Pixel. Thank you. I could not remember his name, but I was watching that. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe his light fell in the pool. And then I couldn't believe that it actually worked again. That was incredible. Um, yeah, I have a lot of cheap light stands, Albert. That's a really good point. And all the cheap light stands I have, most of them are broken. Um, yeah, so weatherproof light gear would be amazing. I can tell you this: I have taken speed lights and put them in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag for doing shoots close to water and around water, and that's worked really well using like a gallon-sized Ziploc bag to protect the lights just from splashes and stuff. And I've shot in the rain with the same technique. It's just literally using a freezer Ziploc bag. Yeah, his Marcus has some really great lighting tutorials and stuff, and I like his stuff because he really, to me, in a way and communicates everything where it's pretty easy to understand. Pretty interesting guy too. There's a video he released about who he is, and that was a very interesting video. Um, Interesting guy, really super genius. One over in a cliff. I have an amazing photograph of a whole wedding party doing this, because I didn't realize that my wife, who was holding the light stand behind me, had looked away and the wind had caught the umbrella and was blowing the light over on everybody in front of me. And I actually got the shot before the light hit everybody. Um, and I'll never forget that. That was so funny. It was funny because nobody got hurt and my lights didn't get broke. Weather sealed, always work. If I remember correctly, even the Z30, I think, is even weather sealed. I don't know how difficult it is for a camera company to weather seal versus not weather seal. Yes, Roy, a flash can melt plastic, so be really careful. When I'm using speed lights in the Ziploc bags, the power on them is turned down significantly, and I'm extremely careful about using something to keep, like a diffuser or something, to keep the plastic away from the actual front of the flash. And every now and then I'll reach up and grab it just to feel and make sure that I'm not I'm not sitting there and hitting the flash over and over again. So I'm very conscious of how much heat I'm generating inside that Ziploc bag because I don't want to damage my equipment. Yeah. So that's a very good point. The flash can definitely melt plastic, and I've almost melted a flash. Just so you know, I've got just regular alkaline batteries in this. I put lithium batteries in this speed light that were rechargeable, and I guess they were stronger than a normal alkaline battery. And we were doing several full power bursts, and the flash stopped working. And I thought, well, are my batteries dead already? And I went over and opened it, and like the batteries literally burned my hand. That was pretty scary. So you have to be really conscious of how much you're pushing your speed light because they can get really hot. I think you're muted, Chuck.
Yeah, I said,
There we
sorry
go.
about that. I had a minor emergency. All right. Yeah. So, guys, if you guys want to talk more lighting, I really want to do this. I want to continue this. I want to pause for just a second because there is some, it seems like take a small break, go to gear for a minute, not lighting gear, but camera gear. Uh, Man, Simon at Ordinary Filmmaker has been dropping video after video here recently. For those of you that don't know Simon, you can check his channel out, Ordinary Filmmaker. There's a link in the description here.
Mm-hmm.
But looks like Canon's dropping, or there's rumor of the R6 II that's coming out. So they're, going to upgrade one of their first cameras, mirrorless cameras, and an R8. I don't know what the R8 is, but he's got all the specs over there if anybody's interested. And I know we got Canon shooters in here. And Sony is getting ready to drop the new A7R5, 61 megapixels sensor in it. And it's a new
Wow.
sensor, it's not the old one. So don't know all the bits and pieces about that. I bring this up because you think Nikon is going to just sit back and do nothing. I mean, there's a lot of cameras that have been dropped over the last, 6 months, it seems like, or last few months, actually. Fuji and, of course, Hasselblad. So, get ready. I'm still calling October the month. Nikon announces something, whether it's going to be a deliverable immediately or an announcement with a delivery after the first of the year. I don't know, but they're gonna we're gonna hear something here soon. I mean, everybody
Just
and their
for a
brother.
quick moment.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Chuck. I've got to run. About to hit the road here, but I really
All right.
appreciate you having me on again today, and enjoyed getting to talk to everybody again. And look forward to this Saturday and whatever gets talked about this Saturday.
Yeah, man.
And
It's great. Thanks for being
so,
in here.
yeah, man, no problem. Thanks. We'll see you guys later.
There's a link to Huff Photo in the description as well, folks. So you check his channel out if you haven't already. All right. Uh, let's see. Where are we at in the comments? And Nikon sitting on their hands. Yeah, exactly, Mike. No problem on the typing, Roy. It doesn't matter. All right. T Mid, you still around? I think T Mid might have been on his lunch break. Everybody's busy today. That's good though. All right. All right. All right. So yeah, back to the lighting. And look, guys, I am not the expert on any of this. I can bring up bits and pieces, but the experts are you guys that are out there in the community. And again, that's what this page is all about. This channel is all about is everybody sharing their all the things that they've done and helping all those that may be new to something. And Ray, 68 years old. Well, I'm not too far behind you, and you're never too old to play around and experiment and find something new that you really enjoy doing. So lighting might be one of those things for you, brother. And we're all here to help you if you want to experiment and tap into everybody's expertise on it. I don't think anybody's an absolute expert at lighting. I think there are people that are absolute experts on certain techniques within lighting or certain, lights, be it strobes, speed lights, or whatever, or a certain genre for lighting. But it's one of those things that it's ever evolving, especially with technology, cameras, and everything else. Lighting's even evolving. So, all right. Uh, Let me pull up Mr. Mike Farwell. I just want to tell you guys for telling me a few live streams ago to use ISO 8000 for high school football. I did last weekend, was totally or really impressed. Good, Mike. And that brings up another subject when you talk about ISO and noise. So many people are so afraid of noise. Um, I don't know what everybody's shooting. I think we all get caught up in. We're afraid if we post something, it might have a little noise in it. Sometimes noise is actually a good thing. I think it adds to a photo, but we get too wrapped around the axle about noise, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel. Uh, da, 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 da. Here you go. Roy, this is another good subject within the lighting discussion. Many pros migrate to a single lighting setup. Yes, I definitely agree with that. And here's another little piece to that, Roy. I don't know if you'll agree, but we, the more you get into lighting, the more lights you buy, the more you want to use. And then it just becomes a problem. Too many lights becomes an issue. I think people see like Joe McNally, and he's got 23 speed lights for a scene, and we think, well, more lights make it better. And often it doesn't make it better. And it makes it more difficult to control the lights by adding too many. So a simple setup sometimes is better than a multi-light setup. A single light setup often is better. We can get into rim lights. Some will say, well, you need a hair light to separate the individual from the background. It just depends on what you're looking for in a photo. It doesn't always make the photo better. Uh, Often it may, but again, it's one of those things. Once you start playing with lights, you'll find out, especially if you get caught up in the lighting buzz and start buying multiple lights, strobes, and everything else, and then modifiers. And I will caution everybody that isn't into lighting yet, but maybe getting into lighting, be careful watching videos where a photographer reviews a certain softbox. Well, they're showing you the best of the best of the best whenever they're doing that. It won't necessarily make you a better photographer, just like gear. And it's even more so than gear, though. Lighting peripherals or modifiers and things like that, they're cheap enough that we feel like, well, I'm going to buy it. Maybe it's only $59 or $80 or something like that. Well, it's not that expensive. I'll buy it and give it a shot. And then you find out that it's worthless. So be careful watching other photographers review soft boxes and other types of modifiers, because often they're only doing it to sell it, and they'll do everything they can to sell that product. Mr. Jeffrey, how are you, sir?
Oh man, I am tired of the people's court.
All right, good. So you're out of court today.
Well, I got picked yesterday on a trial, and it got result. We went through that. It was a assault and battery case yesterday. They tried to pick me again today for another one, but I got recused by the defendant's lawyer. Did not want me on the jury. So
This is
tomorrow,
one of those times it's good to not be wanted, isn't it?
yes, it is, and I think I got. They didn't want me because they ask you what you did for a living, what your spouse does for a living, and it says it was a car accident related case, I guess. And my wife works for an insurance company. They didn't want me to be on it, and that's my guess. So I got. We all got. They only had two cases that needed juries today. So six, it's only six people on each case. So the rest of us got to leave at a little while ago, and I scoffed down some lunch quick, and said, "Hey, you're all by yourself. Your buddy left." I says, "I'll sneak in."
That's great, man. No problem at all. It's good. We'll just have a rotating panel today. I think that's wonderful.
Hey, I wanted to share something, and I don't know if this was just the store I went in, but I happened to go in Best Buy because I'm a big movie junkie. I buy movies every once in a while, and I looked in the camera area, and they had the Nikon Z lens, the 14 to 30 f4, on sale for like $949, which was $400 off, brand new. So I bought it.
There you go.
So if that's cheaper than the refurb price that Nikon was offering when they had their sale. So if somebody's looking for that lens, and it wasn't just in the store that I happen to be in, if it's Best Buy everywhere, that is a great price on that lens.
There you go. Anybody looking for that lens, maybe it's time to head to Best Buy. I love the 14 to 30.
Yeah.
That's what we're on right now.
There you go.
And my trusty Z6 after the firmware update, man, it's a great streaming camera. I'll say that. All right, so we've been talking about lighting. I don't know if you've followed any of it, Jeffrey, but we've been talking about lighting. We talked about it Saturday night, talking about it again. You know, I don't know how many people were there Saturday night, so I wanted to do a recap today and just talk about it. But it seems like quite a few people are interested, so we've just been on that topic. Let's see, Roy talking about, again, for those that don't know, the old soft boxes were, especially big octo boxes, were a pain in the butt because you had to put them together rod by rod. And, I almost want to say how many people remember that, because nowadays everything you buy is an umbrella like opening. But man,
You have to be our age, Chuck.
yeah, trying to get those rods in the under tension to build the softbox, it was a pain in the butt.
Everything now, you step on it and flatten it out, and that's it. Put it away.
Yeah, that battle, standing on the speed ring and everything else, trying to get those rods through the softbox into the speed ring. Man, what a pain in the butt that was. Still is for some. I guess there are still some modifiers out there you can buy that are still that way, but most of them have gone to that the little umbrella like opening. Makes it so much easier. You can actually carry them, take them on site with you. It takes you 5 minutes to set everything up, where before you look like an idiot, standing in somebody's living room trying to put the rods in the softbox. Oh.
Roy says a lot of the octobox types are still that way.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my brand of choice right now, as far as soft boxes and strip boxes or strip banks and others, are Cheetah Stand. I've kind of really taken a liking to them. They're very well built, and they're all, everything now, all their new products are that way. It's just under tension like an umbrella. Just pull it out of the bag, snap it, and off you go. Oh. So yeah, anyway, back to lighting. Is there anybody in here that, I mean, Ray was already talking about the fact that, he's never ventured into lighting really. I think it's great. I really wish we could get a speed light in his hands and let him play with it. But I know everybody can't just run out and buy a speed light, but they are relatively cheap now for a good speed light, and compatible with just about any cameras. You can buy it compatible for whatever brand you have. Other than Sony's finally coming around, or lighting manufacturers are coming around and helping Sony out a little bit. Sony had their different hot shoe, so you had to have a light made that was made specifically for Sony. Let's see.
Well, there was I don't know if it was it Nikon rumors, maybe, that how sometimes they have ads and articles and stuff, camera articles, and there was there was one with oh man, you were just talking about him the other day, our Nikon ambassador, Joe McNally.
Yeah.
And there was some article about what's in his kit or whatever, lens wise and flash wise, and I guess he uses quite a few of the, kind of uses obviously Nikon speed lights, but he uses Godox, is it A10s, I believe, as well. So I guess there's no compatibility problem with that particular unit.
No.
I don't know enough about the Godox brand, to be honest with you.
Well, Godox, we've been talking about that. It's a great starter point for somebody in lighting. And I mean, you can go all the way up to their strobe lights. I mean, now that everything's battery powered too, and that's the only way to go with or not speed lights, but strobes. Get rid of those cords, man. Uh, but they're actually, good lights. And of course, there are a lot of people that are going to talk about, it's a knockoff, well, Chinese brand, blah blah blah. But they've done extremely well. I think a lot of people are happy with them now. But I was just going to say, starting out with Godox, the 8200 we talked about quite a bit. Get the S bracket for it, a light stand, and you're up and running with a trigger. I mean, and it's a great light. It's a very versatile light, the 8200, and a speed light. They're speed lights. Nothing wrong with them. I know there was a problem a while back with the little hot shoe connector coming off, but evidently recently they've fixed that too. But it's still, I mean, it's cheap enough that you can buy into Flashpoint or Godox right up front, and then make a decision on where you want to go from there as far as your other lighting. If you choose to go to strobes, then you got a choice to make what brand to go to. And depending on what you believe the quality is, it may cost you a little bit more, but there are alternatives out there to just Profoto or Elinchrom. Westcott's doing a good job now too. Westcott seems to be a more affordable brand, not quite as cheap as Godox, but still. I wanted to put this up here. Roy talked about a shoot through umbrella is a great first modifier. It is. It really is. Especially if you're doing like a family or something like that, because you're going to get so much light spread and spill with a shoot through umbrella, but it will soften the light, and it actually does a fantastic job. To be more creative, you may want to get a reflective umbrella, black back with either silver or white interior, but nothing wrong with umbrellas. And there are a lot of things that you can use an umbrella for. If you're doing overhead lighting, and that's its own technique. As a matter of fact, Gavin Hoy just had one of his little specials on over the last few weeks, if I remember correctly, demonstrating overhead light. And I've played with that. As a matter of fact, that's where my picture comes from, my little, your whatever it is, picture of yourself. But anyway, and they're cheap. Umbrellas are cheap, and you can still do great things with them. So, oh man,
yeah, and the stands for them, light stands aren't overly expensive either, right?
Well, that's just it. Initially, there's nothing wrong with buying a relatively cheap light stand. If you're going to use it for the 8200 and an umbrella or a small softbox or something like that, nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to outfit your studio because you think, now I really want to get into this, I'm going to tell you right now, you bite the bullet. If you possibly can, bite the bullet and get C stands at some point, rather than buying a bunch of flimsy, little lightweight aluminum stands that are very cheap. Buy a C stand, and once you own one, you'll realize why so many photographers are going to recommend that right up front. You're going to save yourself a lot of money down the road. A C stand isn't a take on location with you stand. It can be, but it's a bit of a pain. But definitely invest in a C stand. But now we're getting way out ahead of ourselves again. And that's what we do when we talk about lighting, because there's so many things to talk about in lighting. So here's Ted from, let's see, impressed with the power and reach Dave Black got from his 4-square speed light setup. I haven't seen that yet. If you got a link to that, maybe I can just, that's Dave Black. I'll write this down. I want to check it out. Yeah, I'm going to check that out, Ted. Thanks for sharing that.
I did too recently. I was just poking around at KEH because obviously sometimes I do buy old cameras from them. But I looked at Nikon speed lights, what they had available. And they had quite a few, and the prices were really, really good. And they were all in EX or EX plus condition, the ones that I was looking at, and they were very affordable if you want to get into speed lights. I mean, or if if you don't have, everyone should have at least one anyway. But very affordable. So if you don't want to pay Nikon pricing for new stuff, I mean, they had some good secondhand flash units.
Yeah. And, Mike Farwell is talking about it. I'll take an umbrella over a softbox if the spill is okay. And you know what? Most of the time, you're not going to have an issue with spill. If you're just taking portraits and you just want standard portraits that are well lit, or a family photo or something like that, umbrellas are fantastic for that. They're cheap, they're easy to set up, quick, do your thing, and you're done. It's when you want to become more creative, umbrellas can be a bit of a challenge. You can use umbrellas creatively, but they can be more of a challenge. But initially, right off the bat, to take portraits, an umbrella is fantastic for that.
Now, what are some of the inserts that are available that you can put in a softbox?
What do you mean inserts?
Well, don't they have some that are like grid patterns or have baffles in them or something, or are they
I've not seen that. Typically, you're talking about either a shoot through, so the light is behind the umbrella, subject faces the umbrella.
Well, I mean a softbox. I'm sorry. I mean a softbox.
Well, there are grids for soft boxes, but just like about anything else, and all it does is it narrows the beam of light from like 70 degrees or 110 degrees, meaning it's just blasting light out everywhere, to putting a grid on a soft box, and you can narrow it down based on the grid, 40 degrees. So you have less light spill, and that's where you really start to play with lighting and become more creative. You want a darker background or something like that, it's not spilling onto the background. A soft box with a grid will help you to control the light so it doesn't touch the background. You can light the background independently then. Or for moody portraits and things like that, even coming down to a 20-degree grid, which some soft boxes will have. And it's just on the upper portion of the body, and it drops considerably as you go down. So it controls the light spill, but it eats up light too. So if you're shooting with a softbox with just a diffusion panel on the front, you might be shooting at f8 and you put a grid on there, and all of a sudden, if you do a light reading after the grid, you're probably down to about f4, f5.6, because it will still light output. And but you just light appropriately. You just start playing. That's the other thing about light. If you want to really get serious about it, then you get you a light meter, and that's going to get you in the ballpark right away every time by determining, excuse me, what the aperture should be. Man, all of a sudden here. And that's another discussion to have, is about how to use a light meter and what's it for. Why would you want one or whatever? You can shoot without a light meter. It just means trial and error. And it's just a matter of dialing up and dialing down and trying to figure out what works best for you. So getting into the basics of lighting. Now, if we're going to talk about off-camera flash, now you got a whole nother bunch of parameters to deal with as far as your camera is concerned. And what controls light when you're using off-camera flash or even on-camera flash? What controls ambient light in your scene? How do you set up? What does ISO contribute to the photo you're taking with flash? What does shutter speed? What does that control? And what does aperture control in that environment when you're using lights? How do you get more ambient light into the photo when using off-camera flash? Which settings control ambient light? Which settings control light intensity? Sorry, folks.
You shouldn't have switched to vodka.
Man, I'm telling you. All right. Oh, here we go. I want to pull Todd's comment up here. Did have a surprise yesterday. I was in a local camera shop. My rep came out of the back and told me that he just got 3 Z400 4.5s in. Wow. Well, that's good news.
Yep.
That they're becoming more and more available. Seems like Nikon's kind of put their foot on the pedal a little bit, picked up production. I know that's not satisfying the 800 millimeter folks that are wanting that lens, and the few 400 TC folks. I can't imagine there's as long a list for that lens as there is for so many others, but
well, that's on everybody's wish when I win the lottery lens. If I had a good scratch off ticket, I'd buy it.
There you go. Michael's talking about he got a speed light for his Fuji and he's got to learn how to use it. The best way to learn how to use it is to put it on the camera and just walk around the house taking pictures of things in the house. And unlike you may be lucky, for me, I never could get my wife to be a model for me. But Roy has a fix for that. Roy talked about going to buy one of those salon heads, that they put wigs on and setting that up and using it to experiment with lighting. That's a great idea.
Well, go to one of the clothing stores and say, where are all the heads for the mannequins that you chopped off? Since they don't have heads on them anymore, they must have a room full of heads.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to buy the head.
Hey, give me one of those. You got a head in the back room that you're not using?
Roy's talking about using his 8-foot Westcott umbrella for groups. Yeah, man. And that's even for one person, that umbrella, I'll tell you, you can't go wrong. If you want soft, beautiful light on a model or a family or somebody you're just doing a portrait for, man, the bigger, the better. And I love using that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to use it here in a couple of weeks with Amanda. She needs more photos, and we'll probably do some high key photos where I use the umbrella, and not just high key, but others for her website.
Well, the thing is, when you get a flash, just like I bought that recently, I bought that Godox, that vintage flash, that you'd use on an old camera that fans out with the dish on it, and you can shoot it bare bulb, or you can expand that and use it that way. And I used it in automatic mode, which was only automatic at one f-stop setting, at one ISO setting for up to 4 meters, and anything else you have to set it up and use it in manual mode. And it had all the power adjustments. You could shoot a half power, eighth power, whatever you want, add all those adjustments. But I found, like, just shooting in the house, fooling around, and that's what you got to do. Just pick a room in the house and fool around. Like in my case, I shot bare bulb only. I shot it with the reflector. I shot it in auto mode. I shot and I looked at the pictures and I thought it might have been a little bit overexposed. So then I put it in manual mode. I made some adjustments. So that's the only way you learn to flash. And believe it or not, I mean, you could have some variation between two identical flashes too. So you really have to you just got to spend the time to play with it. And with the digital now, you're not throwing away, paying for processing. So that's the best thing. It's just a matter of time.
So walk around the house, finding knickknacks, put them on a countertop, just a bare countertop, and work from there and try that and look at, how moving the light around makes a difference. Or if you're going to shoot with speed light on camera, it can be done as well. Buy you one of these at Walmart or your local variety store, whatever it happens to be. And believe it or not, you can shoot with the light on camera and aim it at this, and then use this to aim it at your subject or your whatever you're shooting. And again, all of a sudden you realize, man, this is kind of neat. I like it. But be careful because it's going to cost you money in the long run. Once you fall in love with it, you got to have the next thing. But isn't that the way it is in photography anyway?
It's a disease. We all know it's kind of a disease.
Yeah. Mike Farwell, let's see. Want to know who uses a wagon or whatever to carry their equipment if they're out and about shooting. A lot of people are doing that now. You see a lot of photographers doing that. I have a little cart, but it's not a wagon. It's a cart for just moving cases and things around in the studio or wherever you happen to be. But yeah, I see a lot of people using these little wagons, these little fold up wagons too, that they haul all their lighting and everything around them when they're out doing on location shoots. I think it's a great idea. You did too, I guess, since you're glad you bought one.
You can get the ones with the big tires. If you a lot of people down here, I mean, at the beach, they do a lot of wedding photos at the beach, so they use the ones with the big blow up wheels that go through the sand, and they throw everything on those.
Yep. Darren Francis, most soft boxes will have one smaller baffle. That is true. They'll have an inner piece of diffusion and an outer piece of diffusion, and of course you can play with that. You can shoot a softbox without any diffusion. You're going to get a harder light, no doubt about it. But you just determine whether you want both pieces of diffusion in the softbox. And to be honest, I don't know that it makes that much difference to go without the inner diffusion on a softbox. I can't tell enough of a difference. However, if you use the inner piece of diffusion with no outer, that will make a difference that you can see. It's still pretty subtle, but you get more specular highlights in your photo. And there's another topic to talk about: hard light versus soft light, and what's a specular highlight, and how do you prevent it or add it to the photo. But this is where Roy really comes in, because I know that is a big deal with product photography.
You gotta have the diamond sparkling, man, or it don't count.
The bigger the light source, the softer the light. Absolutely. If you have nothing else but a 7 or 8 foot umbrella that you can actually set up and use that as a light source, you'll be amazed at how great the photos look. Flat, don't get me wrong, but still beautiful photos. Darren talking about he uses a 6 foot strip. Yeah. Wow. Great edge light to your subjects with grids. Yeah. Then we go back to grids. And if you're going to do a rim light, you can do it without grids, of course, but it really takes some feathering to keep it off the background or keep it from wrapping around, where a grid really helps out to control that spill of light. So absolutely. And again, I talk about for the younger folks. I did this for my stepson. I probably find the photo. I saw it on TV. How many of you guys watch TV and try to determine the lighting looking at catch lights in eyes? I do it all the time. My wife, I drive her crazy with it. I'll say, well, that was an octobox. What? The light they used for lighting him or her or whatever. But I saw it on one of the motocross channels. Anyway, taking 2 strip banks in front of the individual, and you get this dual catch light in the eye. And I think it looks pretty cool. It's not for everybody. You're not going to do it for a beauty portrait, but it's still a cool looking catch light in the eye. And you've got to have some catch light in the eye, or unless you're doing a very creative photo, or the eyes just die in the photo. Yeah, strip boxes, strip banks. I guess strip bank was really used for continuous light, but I still see people using it for strip boxes as well. And that's probably the best way to explain it.
Now, would you say, Chuck, one of the best advantages of the strobe versus the speed light is the fact that you have a modeling light where you can actually perceive how things are going to look before you take the picture?
I personally never use modeling lights. And the reason I don't is because one, it runs the battery down in your strobes, and the other is typically because I have older equipment, it's not enough light for me to even really tell, how it's spilling, the light spilling, or what it's actually lighting. Um, I would
So
like
you're
to have some
just
of these.
doing uh, different lighting ratios between the first and second strobe or whatever, setting that up on the
Yeah, and
strobe.
there are a lot of photographers that have formulas that they use, and they'll
Yeah.
suggest to whoever, but it's really a matter of taste. And then once you find what works for you, I guess you can determine. Okay, here's the ratio I use. Uh, you know, one stop below the key light, or I mean, and then when so this is again yet another. This is the wonderful thing about lighting is there's so many subjects to talk on at length, and lighting ratios for hair light or rim light or fill light or whatever, or even background light. What's the lighting ratio for your background? Do you want a absolutely white background? Do you want it, to have some color in it? And there's so many ways to do that as well. It's, make it two stops uh, under your key light so that you get that gray background. I mean, there's so many things to talk about here when it comes to lighting. And again, I'm saying all this stuff, folks. You guys chime in. I'm not an expert, but I've watched enough videos and played with enough lighting that I know how to get the conversation started. I'm definitely not the one to say, well, hey, teach us, oh great one. That's where all of you all that have been doing this for years can jump in and really help out.
Hey, from what I've seen, Chuck, you've got it nailed pretty good when you're doing your shoots and sharing. You do a great job.
Yeah, well, I'd love to do that again just so that we can talk. We were talking, Jeffrey, before you got in here. With lighting, it's something we can talk about all day long. And the problem with that is you've got to have examples because it's hard to understand without an example. Once you show somebody, okay, this is the difference between an evenly lit background and or a high key photo. How do you do that? Or what do you do if you overlight the background trying to get a white background? Now you're getting wraparound light. And oh, by the way, that's not rim light, that's wraparound, and it softens the photo, reduces contrast and everything else. But again, you can't understand that without actually seeing it.
Yeah.
It's just hard to grasp. Oh,
What you're going to need is you're going to have to do a demo and have a couple assistants to move lights around for you and change backdrops and stuff like that. create your own lighting video, Chuck, to put out.
It would definitely be something that you'd want to have somebody help you with, and you'd want to think it through and have an agenda to go through just to keep things moving. No doubt about that. You don't want to be a one-man show and trying to do it all. That's for certain.
No.
In a live stream.
David Stewart is here from Scotland. You wearing your kilt, David, or you got your kilt on? You got to send a picture of yourself in a kilt. We all have to have a little bit of enjoyment with that. So,
trying to get down there to David. I mentioned getting someone to carry my gear. Leslie told me not to get any ideas and said no before I even asked.
Well, he just has to say it's gonna be a guy, hon. It'll be a male, and then she might be okay with it.
Vaughan does not need a light kit anymore. He has the Noct lens in hand. True enough, James. True enough. I'm looking forward to the video he's going to do with that lens. No doubt about it.
He's, you know, if he walks around with expensive glass like that, he's going to have to hire a bodyguard to protect him when he goes out shooting.
Yeah. So, Roy, I'm just catching up with all the comments here. I know I'm trying to speed through them. I want to spend just enough time to address them, though. And Roy talks about you do need grids on strip boxes to avoid flare. And this is true. They will spill light quite a bit because you're talking about anywhere from a 5-inch to maybe a 13-inch width on strip boxes. I guess you can actually find them maybe even bigger or smaller in width, but they will spill light. But man, a strip box, once you've played with lighting and you pick up a strip box, then it just adds a whole nother dimension to your lighting using strip boxes, I think, anyway. And there's a lot of experimenting left to do there for me with the strip boxes. And Mike's talking about, this is where we were talking about those little wagons that a lot of photographers are using now to pull their lighting and things around with them when they're on location. So 2 light stands, 600-watt flashpoint strobes, plus a few speed light camera case, and yada, 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 yada. Yeah. It makes it much easier, doesn't it, Mike? I guess a lot of maybe back in the day, everybody thought they were too cool to pull a little red wagon with all their lighting in it. But more and more now, I see a lot of photographers that are doing it because it just makes sense to carry what you need if you're on location.
Well, there's a gentleman that shows up at the park with a cart with a 600 lens and a few other big lenses laying in there. And sometimes he sets up his tripod, 50 feet away or something, and the cart's down the other end. And I'm like, man, I would have that cart right next to me. I would never walk away from the cart. It's too much money sitting there.
So Mozman talks about he likes using the modeling lights to see the shadows and to focus. Yeah, I would agree with that, Moz, but the modeling lamps on my 8600s and even on my Pro Photo, just the light is too soft. I really can't get a feel for where the light's spilling or the contrast in the the photo or the face or whatever. But I can see where I can see hard light being better for a modeling light. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would love to use them on my strobes, but for 2 reasons. One, it just doesn't really help me, and the main reason though is it just doesn't kill the battery as fast. That modeling light will eat up the battery. James is asking, why do we think Nikon got out of the speed light business? I have no idea. James.
Yeah.
Anybody have an idea? Their reasoning behind it? It just wasn't lucrative for them, I guess. They just decided it's better to there's so many lighting. Well, that may be it too. Maybe they're looking down the road. The more and more these companies come up with all these speed lights and whatnot, maybe Nikon was losing sales to those and just decided it just wasn't lucrative anymore. I don't know. I know they partnered, as we said, with, I shouldn't say partnered. I don't know what the relationship is, but with Pro Photo, because Pro Photo has definitely been all over taking care of Nikon with everything that they are putting out. And the other Nissin or whatever, the little small company, I guess Nikon supposedly partnered with them, but I haven't seen anything in that partnership or that relationship. And I don't know that I care anyway. I'm not sure I'm even interested in that brand. Let's see. Hey, folks, for those that are, and I'm seeing a lot of fluctuation. Of course, there's always going to be people that are going to float in and out. That's the great thing about running a long live stream is a lot of people get to jump in, share, and then go on about their business. But if for those that are in here, if you enjoy this, I just ask you to drop a like. It just makes me feel better. It gives me a little momentum to continue down this path. Not that I've lost any. I'm really enjoying our little community that we're building. But if you would drop a like, and I guess my wife is always telling me, make sure I do this. So, and if you're in and out of this and you enjoy the conversations that we have, and maybe you'd even consider subscribing, becoming part of our community. And that's what it is. It's a big community here. I know I just sit up here and blabber all the time, but for those that would like to join and be a guest in the panel to talk about all these subjects, you're more than welcome to do that. You can email me at the email that I will put up now. Let me drop that in there for a minute. You can email me here, and we'll get you on the show as long as you have a way to stream and you got good audio. Then we'll get you in here to talk about it and become part of the voice on the channel. All right.
Yeah, Mozman's having bad dreams, Chuck. You gotta put that one up. Hello, Moz. I didn't get a chance to say hi to you earlier, so hello, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah, so here's a couple of good comments on that. Roy says Nikon got out of the business. Most pros are going away from speed lights. Yeah, I guess for Nikon, Joe McNally wasn't enough to keep the speed light business going. And Mozman says there haven't been enough sales to justify developmental costs. Yeah, I agree. Those are definite possibilities.
Part of that is pricing. They were always pretty expensive. Well, I mean, all the camera brands were pretty expensive with their native flash units. They were all pretty high.
Okay, so here's a good comment Michael's talking about, I'm starting out with all kinds of cheap lighting gear, on sale from Walmart, mixed together with all the other photography equipment, learning as I go along. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that as far as the learning goes. One of the things I'm sure if he hasn't already, Roy's going to jump in here with is color on the lighting. There's a lot of great do it yourself sites out there or videos out there about building modifiers for lights and things like that, or even using tungsten light and everything. So here's the key. When you mix all those different light colors together, it becomes a nightmare sometimes. Sometimes it could be a creative effect that you want. So don't get me wrong. It's not that you shouldn't do it. However, even if you choose one lighting, one type bulb or one type light that isn't a standard, a strobe or speed light from a camera manufacturer or a lighting manufacturer, you can set it up so that it will work for you, even if it's the light temperature varies just by using your Kelvin scale in your camera to set it up for the lights that you're using. A whole other discussion to have, but the easiest way to do this is just start out with, speed lights and strobes from some of the lighting competitors that are out there. And there are enough that are cheap enough that you can do that. But the old days of using the salad bowl as a beauty dish, you can do that, but you're going to fight the color temperature on things like that.
Well, it's good if you can stay with the same brand, so you have some consistency with the color temperature, like you said. You start mixing in a lot of different brands, it could get a little messy.
So Darren, I know that you do. We've seen your photos at hockey and so on and so forth. So do you find that in the varied lighting temperature or lightscapes that you find in arenas and such, that using strobes, one, I know that it's obviously you're going to get the right light that you want on the subject. And two, excuse me, does it override the ambient light so that you can select a color temperature to work with in the camera so it's consistent? Or, I mean, what are your are those the reasons that you're using strobes? I'm just curious. And David, good afternoon, buddy. Sorry it took me so long to get down here to you. I hope you're having a good time. I hope the weather's great. I hope the scenery's beautiful and you're taking lots of photos to share with us. And he says it's raining. Oh, is it still raining? That's James. Oh, wait a minute. Ordinary Filmmaker just popped something up on here. Let's see, A7R5, 61 megapixel, 8K video, 9.6K oversampled. Wow. Okay, there you go. A7R5 is going to be a barn burner, it looks like. Failure is the best teacher. Absolutely. 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 That's why I say get a speed light, go around the house, set a couple of figurines up on a counter, go take a picture of something in a room, and just watch how the light reacts. And then you react to how that light reacted by moving it, changing it, turning the direction, bouncing it, or whatever. And it won't be long. And you're going to say, man, I want more of this. So David did say we're having sun and rain every hour. Well, welcome to Scotland, I guess. My kilt is handy. All right. Hey, small bit of trivia. Did you know that Nikon, you know that Special Forces, United States Army Special Forces, have their own kilt cloth or, yeah, pattern registered. I did not know that until about 10 years ago. But Special Forces have their own bolt of cloth that only Special Forces can use. And I guess they're pretty strict on that too, as far as clothiers. It's pretty neat. Trivia you won't use anywhere else.
Kilt trivia.
Where's the latest Nikon announcement? It's coming next week. Next week, James. Next week.
It's out there in the Nikon multiverse somewhere.
Looking at some of the other comments, everybody's giving David some pointers about eating in Scotland.
Take care, Todd. Todd's taking off. Have a
Todd,
good one.
Thanks for being in here, man. All right. Strip boxes as kickers. Yep. Yeah, a gridded strip box for a rim light. Fantastic. Cal Jackson, what are the issues with on-camera flash with Z6 II? That's a good question. Nikon obviously has some work to do. And I know that Amar talks about this all the time with the Canon. I guess the R7 is what he was playing with when he talked about it last. It's hard to get. Well, you can't get, as far as I know. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. You can't get the ambient light, a true picture of what you're looking at as far as the ambient light when you connect a controller or a speed light to the Nikon Z cameras. As soon as you connect the flash trigger or the speed light to the camera, it immediately lights up the scene in kind of that starlight mode or whatever they call it. So you don't get a true appreciation of the ambient light that's in the scene.
I think you have to, before you turn the flash on, you have to set your shutter speed to whatever sync you're going to use your flash at and adjust your f-stop so that you get the background in your shot exposed right to begin with, and then transfer those settings to your flash when you turn your flash on.
And we also have the issue of there's no TTL with other brands of flash that I know of yet. Only the Nikon brand. Somebody said Godox had fixed that. Maybe it's in an update or later models flash, but I know that TTL is an issue, and I know a lot of people don't shoot TTL, but there's a cheater's way to use it as a flash meter or a light meter. Are we expecting a Nikon announcement on the 26th? I don't know. I tend to believe it may be sooner. It is kind of funny that usually Nikon does send out an announcement to, I guess, dealers or something like that for their setting up their announcement that they're going to do. I don't know how they'll do it this time. I don't think, if I remember correctly, when we got the production announcement about the Z9, did we know anything up front? It seems like that caught us by surprise too. So I don't know. Anytime from tomorrow on, the rest of the month, Gustavo, I do believe we get an announcement this month of some sort. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, it would be a shame if they don't do something because everybody else is popping out stuff right now.
Yeah.
Could be a good time to. I mean, they need at least one body. They need the 85 1.2. They need the 2 to 600 zoom. If you came out at least with those three things, that would be.
Well, it seems like there's some difference in opinion on whether the 2 to 600 will even be announced. I can't imagine that. How could they push that off any further? But maybe they will. The 85 1.2, well, it's still not 100% sure it's 1.2, 100% sure, but we'll find out when it's announced. I could live with 1.8 if that's what it's going to be, but why would you do a 1.8? Or I mean 1.4. Why would you do a 1.4 if you can do 1.2? So I don't know. We're going to see. But even I think Peter over at Nikon Rumors feels like that's a lens that's going to be announced this month. So it could be the 2 to 600. But man, where is the 2 to 600? Again, these are high selling lenses, high selling items. Maybe Nikon just doesn't feel like they can keep up with the production of that as well, considering they can't keep up with the 800. I don't know. But I do believe we will hear about it this month, the 2 to 600, that is, and a new camera body. Which camera body? Not sure. And you got people in both camps, Z6 III or high megapixel camp and Z8 all around her. But here's a question I'll pose to the audience real quick when it comes to the Z8, Z7, because I'm kind of getting tired of hearing this, constant battle about the Z8 is going to be the high megapixel camera. Well, if that's the case, if the Z8 is going to be the 61, 85, whatever megapixel camera it's going to be, then what will the Z7 be? Think about that before you jump on that bandwagon that the Z8 is going to be the high megapixel camera. I don't think it is. I think it's going to be a 45 megapixel camera, just like the Z9. We'll see. But if you give it the high megapixel count, then what is the Z7? Where does it fit into the lineup? The Z6 III being the lower megapixel, 33, 36 megapixel. The Z7, is it going to stay at 45 megapixel? Do they get rid of the Z7, which I think is crazy? Some people even talked about that being a possibility. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I still say the Z8. We don't even know that there is a Z8, but you can bet there is. I still say Z8 is going to be the baby Z9 in a lot of ways, not every way, but a lot of ways. And there are so many people that are waiting for that camera, not the Z7, not a high megapixel camera, and not the Z6 III. There are so many people that are waiting for that camera, the baby Z9, if you will, the Z8. So we're going to find out. We'll find out soon.
I mean, I think theoretically, if all those three models are going to be real, that they could pop out as these, put out, because it's probably going to be the same exact body, just with some different specs. They could theoretically put out a Z6 III and a Z7 III at the same time, and then kick out the Z8 in early spring. Do a development announcement this year and actually ship it in early spring. But hard to say. It's at this point, everybody else is just, putting out a lot of stuff. It's
So, hey, Martin, thanks for hanging in there, man. So, I bet that was a lesson in English for you, trying to keep up at 1.5 speed. Uh, yeah. So, a lot of people are going to say, well, are they delivering? Well, I'll say yes, they are. Talking about Canon and Sony and Fuji, and we'll find out more about whether they're or how they're delivering as these new bodies come out. But the bottom line is they found a way to deliver. Yes, so Nikon needs to get on this as well. Put the pedal to the metal, get that third shift going, and whatever if they want to continue to. Hold on to or even increase market share. And everybody says, well, they don't care. There isn't a business out there. You show me a business that says, I don't care if I sell anything or not. I'll show you a business that isn't going to be around long. So, I'm not buying that either. Well, it's a smaller company and they don't, whatever. No, 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 no. So, uh,
that works if you're going to be a niche product like a Leica or something like that, where
yeah,
you make up. You're not worrying about volume because you're getting so much for each item that you sell.
yep, yeah. So, I think that I think we get an announcement this month, guys. I think we get a couple of lenses, and we're going to get a camera body at least. When I say get a camera body, I don't know if it's just an announcement that it's coming soon, meaning it's in its final stages, and it'll be a deliverable after the first of the year or March or whatever. I think that's a crime for Nikon to wait to March to deliver a new body. But anyway, we're gonna find out.
I know it's trick or treat time, but I don't want any tricks. I just want the treats, baby.
Moz man. I had a dream last night. I was shooting an event and half my equipment was stolen. When I went to check on it, they stole the rest of it that I turned my back on. Oh man. That's a bad dream. Oh, thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. Uh,
The only way you get out of that scenario is you only bring with you what you can put around your neck.
exactly. Yeah, thanks, Michael. We'll get there eventually. We're working on it. James says, was it all Sony gear? Uh, oh, and Zaman added a comment talking about the Nikon speed lights. Yeah, I'm guessing the same thing, Yaman. The whole idea of whether it was lucrative or not. And that may have been a different type of industry that they had set up for speed lights, completely different than cameras and everything else. I don't know. Maybe that was part of the downsizing as well.
And they could have eliminated that whole department for all we know.
Yeah. Uh, AF, let's see, AF assist. Let's see, and I know that's what you meant. I know you're typing on your iPad, Roy. No problem there, buddy. AF assist is usually disabled on most speed lights for mirrorless cameras. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too. If that's true, well, I'll just say that's not good. I don't want to use the word I was thinking.
Uh, let's see. David. Thanks, David. You just add more international flair beyond Canada to Scotland. Thanks, buddy. Oh, there you go. This is a comment. I'll let you let the other guys weigh in on it too. Back in the day, shooting film, you really had a demand for speed light. ISO over 800 was almost unthinkable. So that would, man, I can't. I don't even want to think about learning flash for film. I'm kind of amazed by that.
Yeah, that's true though. I mean, I think that, a lot of people were using, Kodachrome 64, Ektachrome 100 speed color film, 200. 400 was kind of like the most anybody would use. Some people would push process or what have you, but yeah, you got into that 400 speed or higher. It was not the best, but like you said, sometimes though, you like on black and white, sometimes that extra grain looks pretty good, depending on what you're shooting.
Well, Martin, we're going to continue to talk about lighting, as the weeks go on, until everybody says we're tired of talking about lighting. But if you want to experiment and talk to folks in the community, take a few pictures, find something you're really happy with, and send them to me, and we'll put them up and let everybody help you out with what you're doing. That's what the community's here for.
Thing too, you could take something larger, put it on a stand, and then have a white wall in the background and experiment with how your shadows look, depending on what your distance is from that subject to your back wall, and fool around with moving that item forward and backward, and then changing the angle of your light and bouncing it off the ceilings or bouncing it off a wall or knocking down the power or what have, or get a tethered cord off your hot shoe, hold the flash off camera and take the picture. And there's like a million different things you could do, and just take notes, what you like, what you don't like, because that's really, I mean, you could read all the books in the world, and it's like, until you really just dedicate the time to sit there and fool around while your wife says, "What are you doing up there for 4 hours? Are you crazy? What are you doing?" You go, "Yeah, I'm crazy, but I'm figuring things out." That's what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just playing with it, and all of a sudden you take a photo and you think, "Wow, that looks pretty cool." Yeah. And then just try to replicate it, and then try to modify it. Hey, Darren, you know what? And that would be a great example to show too the difference. I was going to say, do you have any shots where it didn't trip the flash? So it's a non-flash shot, but that's not going to be the same as taking an ambient light shot and a shot with the speed lights or the strobes, just so people could see the difference between, okay, so here's what strobe lights do. It's not just about exposure, but it's about how it crafts the photo. I think it'd be great. We need to do that one night here on the stream, is take some photos, use ambient light settings for the ambient light, and then take a photo with flash and just show the difference between the two. That's where you really begin to appreciate light, is when you see the creativity in it, not just the ability to, get a correct exposure, but the creativity of shaping the light.
Think of the old horror movies. Think of the old black and white horror movies, Hammer films from the 50s and 60s, where Bela Lugosi or Boris Karloff or somebody, they got that side view, and one side of the face is lit up, the other side is in darkness, or they did a lot of playing with light when they shot those old films. And You watch something like that, you kind of chuckle, you kind of see, but you see what they're doing with playing with the light for very dramatic and edgy lighting for that, type of movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I know that he was talking about that, Yaman. It's funny. 5 months ago, he was laughing at people like me for saying it would even happen at all. Now, all of a sudden, it's a possibility. All because it seemed that the source pool dried up. They weren't getting any information from their sources. I think Nikon has just been very tight-lipped. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Roy. There are issues. One, namely, being the lack of TTL. David, I guess he's already gone, had to run. The chef is calling. Yeah, I'd be running too, buddy.
And Michael, you're talking about all these different grades of gear you're buying, and buying stuff that when you see it, picking it up cheap or whatever. Do yourself a favor at some point. Put your gear on your car in neutral. Don't buy anything for a month, and just start fooling around with what you have to figure out what you like, what you don't like. And that way it focuses your buying decisions better, because you may have bought some stuff that once you actually start using it and fooling with it, you go, that wasn't a good thing. I don't want to buy that again. Because if you just buy, and you don't have time to sit there and really play with the stuff, then you may ending up with a third of the stuff you bought not doing what you want it to do once you do get time to use it. So I would recommend pause for a brief moment in time and get the stuff out, set it up, and use it, and decide whether it fits your needs or not before you go out and buy more of it.
And I wish there was an easy way. I wish there was a way for people to actually feel the hurt before they go through it, of buying all the cheapest this and that. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand. And I had to do it too. I think in the very beginning, I had to do it. Buy the cheapest of the cheap just to get started or whatever. But a smart man would have learned his lesson, which speaks to my lack of intelligence, because I didn't learn. I just kept going down that path. And Roy brought up earlier talking about light stands, or you run over them, you step on them, you this, you that, or whatever. I mean, they're disposable. Well, this is true, especially if you're in a business, high volume business of photography and shooting on sets and on locations and things like that. You're definitely going to go through some gear, more so than somebody that's at home, has a home studio set up, or a temporary studio that he sets up. So what I'm getting at is, as much as you can, and it's worth the wait when it comes to a lot of things, tripods, camera stands, or light stands, or anything like that. Wait and buy not the best, but the best for your money. Meaning, as far as lighting goes, C stands. Yes, they're heavy, they're bulky, and they're everything else, but it will last you a lifetime. I guarantee if your children get into photography later down the road, even 20 years from now, those C stands will still be working and doing their job. Those little lightweight aluminum cheap light stands won't be, because they're disposable, just like Roy said. So where you can, spend the money to get something that's quality and it's going to last you for a while. Otherwise, you're just going to be buying them over and over, or you're going to do like I and so many other people have done. Let's just talk about tripods for a second. You're going to continue to buy a little more expensive tripod, when in the beginning, if you had just gone and bought a real tripod and spent the $600 or $800, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Of course, they get even more expensive depending on what you're buying. But
more than on mine.
if you invested the $600 to $800 in a tripod right off, and I know that not everybody can, But had you done that, the 5 other tripods that are in the corner wouldn't be there. You'd have never bought them. Always in search of the next best whatever. There is some truth in buy quality when you can. I understand you always can't, but when you can, buy quality. You're going to save yourself a lot of money.
What I find myself doing, because I mean, and this is, take care, Maz, man. This is just my opinion. You know, it's worth about 2 cents. But I'm almost starting to see a trend, and now that you got Tamron doing some stuff for Nikon, I don't know. I'm almost getting that feeling, and Nikon has had some price increases, and I may see them as using Tamron as that budget option, obviously, for Nikon glass or Nikon compatible glass.
I didn't understand
And
that.
they may just continue to bump up the price of their lenses, because their lenses have gone up a fair amount already. So I'm kind of looking at when I'm going to buy a lens, like I bought this 14 to 30. Now some people would say, well, why did you buy the f4? Why didn't you buy the 2.8? The thing is, the way I'm looking at it is, what lenses am I going to use the most often? What lenses are going to be, I want to have a decent one, but I'm not going to use it every day, versus the one that you might use every day. And I'm going to invest a higher dollar value on the lenses that I'm going to use the most often. And I might be willing to buy something a little bit cheaper, not junk, but a little bit cheaper, for when I do need it for, let's say, some wide angle stuff. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is if it's something you're going to use over and over and over and over again, almost every time you go out and shoot, save up and get the best you could possibly buy. If it's something that you want to have in your kit, because sometimes you're gonna go to a friend's wedding, you want to get a photo, then you don't have to spend as much on that.
I'll tell you right now that somebody did give me this advice years ago. I did not pay attention. You may be like me, and 10 or 15 years from now, you're going to be sitting here giving this advice to somebody that you didn't take. I think it's just part of being a photographer and the type personalities that we are, that we don't always listen to good advice. But, and again, as much as you can, I say buy quality as much as you can. You can't always do that. And then there is a reason sometimes to buy the cheaper quality and price, items, because they're going to be used once or whatever. And most things have a lifespan of at least one. So why invest a bunch of money in something like that? So I agree with that too. Just be smart. Just, listen to people that have been there and done that, though, and consider before you buy, do I really want to buy this knowing I'm going to have to buy it again in a couple of months or a year? Or can I buy it once and that's it? I don't have to buy again for another 10 years. Just think about it. So Roy says, I hope the Z8 isn't much more than 6. I don't want it 60 megapixels, to be honest with you, Roy. I mean, I'm happy with where the Z9 is right now at 45. I think everybody would be happy with the same thing in the Z8, and then make that Z7 series the megapixel monster, just like Canon did, in DSLRs, the 5DSR versus the 5D Mark IV or whatever. It's the right way to go. And then again, you've got people that can choose from 3 different cameras. That's excluding the flagship. I think the choices have been made there already, but can choose between the other 3 as to what suits their needs best. But we're going to find out. And Jeff says, I think this is a good comparison. Z6 III likens it to the A7 IV, the Z7 III to the A7R5. Okay, that makes sense. And the Z8 to the A9. I agree. I think that's a great comparison if you wanted to look at capabilities. I agree with you, Jeff. I would agree with you, Mike. And in some ways, it's going to be comparable. I think all these cameras are going to be comparable to the D5 in a couple of ways. And that's just in the AF, because that AF technology is definitely going to flow down into all these lower bodies. No doubt about it. Nikon can't miss the mark on that, I hope. Let's see. Thanks, Michael. Looking down through here. Back in the day, speed lights were bigger. Now that I can't speak to, Roy. That's in your wheelhouse.
There were some pretty big ones. Well, you had the old. Roy would remember what they call them. The old Mets flashes were huge back in the day. They almost looked like Thor's hammer, in the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
They were big.
I'm talking about leaf I'm sorry, leaf shutter.
Yeah. Well, that's what they put in all that new Hasselblad camera that came out. All those lenses are medium format camera are all leaf shutter lenses, and they're a lot more than the Fujis.
So that was a big conversation on Amar's stream last night, talking about leaf shutters.
Yeah.
Or global shutter. What's a global shutter? I don't know.
Global shutter technically doesn't exist yet, although some people imply that it does. You have the non-mechanical shutter on the Nikon, and you have such a fast scan rate with that sensor, obviously to make it work. But a global shutter is when you can capture the whole image on your sensor at one time. It's not going across line by line by line.
It's not scanning, right?
It's just there. Boom. Now, I don't think there is such a thing yet, but I mean, when you get to the speed that you're at now, you're pretty close.
Because as they talked about it, I got a little bit confused, because I was kind of confusing it with leaf shutter and whatever, because they started pulling the Hasselblad into the conversation. And then, of course, going back to, old leaf shutter lenses and whatever. And I'm thinking, guys, what are we talking about here? Revamping the whole lens line? Because to me, it sounded like they were talking about leaf shutter. And
leaf shutter is a whole different style of lens, like you had back in the 50s.
Yeah,
where your aperture blades were really your shutter, and basically, let's say you set your aperture to f2.8, let's say you set it to f11. Well, so you dial in f11, you look at the lens, the shutter, the blades, aperture blades are closed. Then when you push the shutter button, they resize to f11, then when it takes the picture, it closes all the way again.
No, I got the concept of how it works, but I mean, to me though, they were all about, there are quite a few people that were talking about going, come on, guys. Maybe it's just because they want to go back to older cameras. Nothing wrong with that.
Well,
but and then talking about,
it's not cost effective. You look at what the price difference is between the Hasselblad lenses and the Fuji lenses for the medium format. Is one, you're going to have a lot more selection with the Fuji lenses, and they're going to be 30% less or 30-40% less for the same coverage. So the Hassie's like a niche camera of a niche camera. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, it just surprised me though that they kept talking about it and whatever. So anyway, guys, on this channel, I love you guys. I love guys, gals, everybody that comes to the community here. And I'll always try to make sure that we can talk about what the community wants to talk about. But you're not going to hear a lot of discussion about old cameras from me. One, I don't know it. And two, I told somebody this last night over on Amar's channel. I'm not a nostalgic person when it comes to, equipment and things. You might not have noticed that, but I think it's wonderful that people want to continue. I think we need to continue so many things in life that we haven't continued, we let fall away, and then nobody knows how to do it, whether it's a language or whatever. So people that want to shoot film, I think it's wonderful. I really do. I'm not going to go out and shoot it, but I think it's great that people still want to do that. People that want to shoot with a DSLR because they just love an EVF for whatever reason. Or I'm sorry, an OVF. That's fantastic. Or you just want to shoot it because you don't care about what's coming around the corner or whatever. That's fine too. But what I don't want to do on this channel is, and this is the reason you go down the road of, let's talk about old cameras. And I think it's great that you guys enjoy that, and you're welcome to talk about it in the chat and whatever else. But it opens up this opportunity for another battle, just like last night. You got 10 people in a room that still believe that film is the greatest thing ever and nothing can trump it. There's no way electronics are ever going to trump film. And then you got 10 people that are happy with electronic. And I'm just trying to generalize here.
Well, no, right. I mean, I look at what
it's the film people, but I've noticed something, Jeffrey. It's the film people that are the aggressive ones. It's always like if I'm a film shooter, I got to impress upon people why film is great and why it's making a resurgence. No, it's not. I'm sorry to, bust anybody's bubble. And, I'm not hating on film or anything else, but film is not making a resurgence. It's another one of those nostalgic things that people are picking up and playing with. It's a hobby now. Film is a hobby, folks. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I do shoot film once in a while, but like I said, underline the word once in a while, because the cost is astronomical between, you're gonna be paying $2.50 to $3 per shot by the time you do developing, buy the film, which is going to be overpriced, to get it developed, which is overpriced, decide what size scan you want them to do, and they send you the scanned files. Well, then you have to go and order the prints. It is so cost inefficient. It's ridiculous, but you're not doing it. Most people aren't doing it for that.
No, but I mean, we keep going down this path. Just like last night, it just turned into, it wasn't about cameras. It switched from cameras and film to how much better and great film is. And look what I can do with the film. Can your camera do any better than this? Why are we going down that path? Why do we want to do that? Why do we want to divide the community? I'm happy for you if you shoot film. I'm happy for you if you only shoot DSLRs. They're only mirrorless now. I really am. Or my favorite, the pinhole camera.
Yeah, there's room for both. There's no need to argue about who's better. You shoot what you want to shoot. End of discussion.
Right? I think that this is the big argument, though, with a lot of people can't let it go, and they're trying to prove that I can do everything you do with my pinhole camera. No, you can't. I'm sorry. No, you cannot. Why do you even go down that road? Well, this photo's good enough. Yeah, I can pick one out that's good enough too. But on a regular basis and shooting all these other things, don't tell me you can do it with film. You cannot. When it was done before, when we only had film, the thing about it is you got 1 in 20. I'm sorry. That's just the way it worked.
Yeah. That's 10%. If you were lucky, 10% of your shots.
I'm not talking about
10% of the shots are worth using.
I'm not talking a family portrait. Yeah, you can shoot those all day long. You can shoot those. You can have somebody sketch them. I mean, you don't even need a camera. You can get a sketch artist. But my point is that why do so many people, not so many, but quite a few, want to fight this battle of, I don't need anything else. I've got everything. My camera can do everything. No, it cannot. Why are you lying to the audience? Why are you lying to the people? Why are you lying to the community? Why are you lying to photographers? It is not possible.
You got to roll. I guess the quickest thing I would say is you put in that roll of ISO 100 film and you're taking pictures throughout the course of the day. You're at ISO 100 all the time. I could sit there and adjust for changing light conditions automatically with auto ISO or just dialing it up on my camera, and you can't do that. So you're going to tell me that digital doesn't have a big advantage in that respect? Because film is what it is. You're restricted to that speed. So that's one anchor of the exposure triangle that can't be changed.
Yeah, and we could sit down and separate, go down the lines, pros and cons of both, and guarantee no ifs, ands, or buts. There is no way that film beats where we're at technological today. That's not to pick on film, but just enjoy your film and go on. Don't get on. Don't try to impress everybody with the fact that you can do everything you want. We don't need DSLRs or mirrorless cameras. We can look at this photo. Look, this photo was taken in whatever. And is there anything wrong with it? No, other than the fact it was shot on film. I don't know why we want to do that. I don't know why we want to separate ourselves and force people, like me who have a temper, to have to respond and say, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. You threw down the gauntlet. Let's have at it.
You got a temper, Chuck? I didn't notice you haven't.
Yeah. And, the whole, our DSLR is dead.
I like Ray's comment. Film it's like a zombie that doesn't know it's dead.
That's great. That is great. Oh. I think there are a lot of people that are zombies when it comes to that. And again, if you shoot film and you have old cameras and you enjoy shooting those cameras, there is nothing wrong with that. But please don't go around trying to convince people that DSLRs and digital has no place in photography anymore, or that film was a great. I even brought up Joe McNally. I brought that up. I think at the beginning of this stream as well. I asked Joe when he was on the show with Vaughan. I said, "So Joe, you ever feel like you want to go back to film?" And what was his answer? Oh, hell no. And there's a man that shot more film than most of us put together. So
hey, you could love the Model A. You want to get to work in an hour, or you want to get to work in 5 minutes? Pick. You're still going to get there. I'd rather get there in 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
I do need a donut, by the way, Greg. I do. Oh man. No, I didn't argue with him. I just made statements and sat in the chat. I'm not going to argue with him. It's his show. But I just get caught up, man. When you go down that path with me, look, I'm not going to sit in the audience and be absolutely quiet.
Hey, shoot. Chuck, you're the guy that lights the match and throws it on the sticks and says, "Let's see how hot this gets."
Yeah. No, I mean, I like Amar. I don't have a problem with Amar. He's welcome on the show anytime he wants to be on here. So here we go. We get philosophical with Photo Me Ike. How you doing, Ike? Sometimes it's about the destination, or it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. That's philosophical there, Ike. All right, man.
That works good when you're young. When you're old, you don't have a lot of time left.
I don't know how that fits into my rant, but brother, I'm with you. Sometimes it is, but when you make a statement, try to convince me and the rest of the world that, hey, film's just as good, if not better, than electronics today. No. You're going to meet with a little resistance from me. No, yeah, like I said, I agree, but that wasn't the point of contention. It wasn't about, just enjoying. I'm all about, if film is your hobby, that's wonderful. It really is. It's probably very peaceful, very relaxing. But anyway, man, oh man. Sorry, it hit a nerve when we went down that path of, it's no. On all accounts, no. I saw a guy on YouTube. There's one guy, maybe, I don't know, maybe I ought to go search, that still shoots film for weddings. Okay, he's not doing it because film is better. He's doing it because he's got people that just like that look for whatever reason. Okay, got it. Some of us invested a lot of brain cells in Kodak chemicals. And oh, by the way, I have actually developed my own film and made prints with a homemade enlarger. So it's not like I'm without any experience. I won't say I have much, but I have done that. There you go. So I'm in the film community too. I just gave it up.
Yeah. I'm still there, but like was stated, it's a more peaceful, methodical, thinking it out more process, and at times I enjoy that. At other times, I have a mission. I have something I want to accomplish, and it's a different story. And I would never try to do it on film. But it's different methodologies, different approaches, different speed lanes, I guess you could say. Are you in the 45-mile-an-hour lane, or are you in the 70-mile-an-hour lane?
Yeah, it's just one of those things that, I still say this to one of, I don't care. People can disagree with me, but it's nostalgia. A lot of people can't let go of, days gone by, the smell of the chemicals in the dark room, the whatever it is. And I get that. And I understand, film is a different look. But why do filmers have to battle with everybody else? It's just, can't we coexist? Isn't that the bumper sticker? Can't we just coexist?
It's almost like an Apple versus IBM thing, isn't it?
When you go down that path of pushing my buttons continually, ramping it up with, and there's a photo, and can you do any better? Look, yeah, probably, maybe not. I don't know. But what'd you have to go through to get that photo? Maybe that's your enjoyment. But again, don't shove it down everybody's throat. All right. Jaspreet, how you doing, buddy? Haven't seen you in a while. You been busy? Mozman always brings me back to reality with his comments. All right, enough of that. Enough of the rant. Let's see.
About Roy talking about tape cartridges. Boy, yeah, we keep going back in time here.
Yeah.
And remember when people used to show movies and they had to crank it with the light bulb going through the lens, and it had a light bulb inside. My uncle had an old film projector. It had a light bulb and a lens, and you cranked it by hand to show the movie.
Yep. Well, that's so much better than TV today.
Yeah.
Again, it is kind of fun to watch it, but I mean, how many people are going to say, you know what, from now on, this is the only way I'm going to watch movies? Oh, man. That's fine.
The chemicals would burn your nose hairs out and they never grow back. So it's,
Yeah. And again, I'm not picking on him personally. I get this. I get this feeling sometimes we just can't let go of something. And maybe it's because we made a statement. For me, I put my foot in my mouth enough, and you guys can bring up to me anything I've done lately where I put my foot in my mouth, and I'll say, okay, I'm sorry. I can live with that. I'm not going to defend it just because, I sat here and made a stupid statement. Now I got to dig even deeper. Let's dig that hole even deeper. Continue to defend. No. It was a dumb statement. Sorry. Let's move on.
We'll call it truce.
Yep. Mm.
Greg, I still prefer 8-track over cassette. Yeah, one of the biggest thrills I had was when I bought my first sports car and it had an 8-track tape player in it. And the problem was because it was a sports car, I had no room for the 8-track tapes.
Yeah. No, come on, Greg. Come on. You just yanking my chain now. 8-track over cassette. Because how many people like that kerclunk right in the middle of a song when it switched tracks? They couldn't get that timed right. There was always a song on there that was going to be split in the middle. Anyway. Oh, it's cool. He worked for KTM Red Bull. Whoa. He's an action photographer. That'd be interesting. Sabas Romero. Okay. Now I got to look him up. Hang on. Write it down.
Moz, man, I did not have Saturday Night Fever, but I did have some Santana 8-track tapes. Believe it or not, I listened to Santana.
He's hitting the way back button.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jaspreet. I'm gonna check him out, man. KTM Red Bull. He's a big sports shooter and action sports or motorsports too. That's cool. There you go. Great image is a great image regardless. Yeah. Dare I say it? Lighting. Yes. All right. Ditto machines with purple ink. Film projectors. Yeehaw. That's the way back train. Oh. And how many people loved getting the test or whatever from the teacher and having to smell that ink on on from the mimeograph machine? Oh man. All right. Enough nostalgia.
Oh my! It was funny when you mentioned. I saw that and laughed because my mom was a church secretary when I was very young, and she used to do the Sunday bulletin on those machines with the drum, and it was like ka-chink, 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 ka-chink with the purple.
Yeah, so here you go. I might as well just make everybody hate me today.
Equal opportunity hater upper.
I had a D700. It was a great camera for the day. Yeah, it still would make, nice images and everything else, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only problem again I have, and I know you're not doing it, Albert, don't get me wrong here. But there'll be people that have a D700 and they've never bought another camera, and they're going to try to tell you that it's, why buy new cameras? Well, there are a lot of reasons. But, and I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with hanging on to, old cameras or whatever, but companies have developed newer cameras for a reason. And I know us old timers want to argue about it sometimes and say they should have stopped with the Model T, but time moves on, and all the, different things that we have in cameras today make things so much easier. Why is it, that becomes a point of contention as well? Well, it makes you slow down. You know what? You're shooting F1. There is no slow down and compose, and I'm going to set everything up here and, whatever. No, it's shoot and go. And even the sports photographers, especially auto sports photographers, will tell you that the difference between 1970 and today it's not night and day. It's interplanetary systems apart, and in a good way. So anyway, you guys, I got to get off the rant today. I'll have to go out and run around the block to get my blood pressure down.
Hey, every product you buy is planned obsolescence, and that's the way it is. I mean, whether it's a car, a camera, a toaster oven, micro, whatever, planned obsolescence.
All right, Jasper. Yeah, I'd love to talk to him. He might be an interesting guy to get in here in the mix. I'm sure he's got some fantastic images. I don't know what he's shooting, but either way, It'd be interesting to know what he's shooting and how he's shooting, especially for motorsports and the like.
Oh, did you notice that? I think it's pro grade cards. Nikon rumors, they say, had something saying that they're coming out with a 1 terabyte and a 2 terabyte card now. They didn't have like the real high capacity CFE type B cards, but they are coming out now with some higher end ones, higher capacity ones. And of course, that was one of the original cards that Nikon recommended for the Z9. Of course, a lot of people use Delkin Blacks too. But
so I know Pergear just it was over on Nikon Rumors. They just announced some lower price cards, high capacity, lower price cards, slower read and write speeds too. So I had somebody ask me the other day about suggesting a 1 or 2 terabyte card, CF Express B. And, I said, well, they're expensive. I mean, I don't. So here are the two brands that I really could talk about. Well, I can only talk about one of them. That's Delkin Black, which I have. And those cards have been extremely good for me, speed-wise and everything else. But Angelbird, who Simon talks about quite often over on Ordinary Filmmaker. And so I guess here's the thing. If you're going to be shooting high speed quite often, then you probably need a couple or so very fast cards. I don't know if you want a 1 terabyte or not, or 2 terabyte, which I don't necessarily need unless I really begin to play with video, especially RAW. Then the 1 or 2 terabyte cards come in very, very handy. But beyond that, for shooting stills, and I know everybody's going to say, well, I shoot RAW and whatever, but still, I mean, how many shots are you taking? Or the other thing is, how often are you shooting at a high frame rate? And if you can manage it, having slower cards, which are a whole lot cheaper, probably is a good way to go, as long as you know to have the right card for the right thing. Unless you're just independently wealthy like Jeffrey, and you just go out and buy all 2 terabyte cards that, are 1700 read and write speed, sustained.
I agree with the read write speed. I did get the highest at the time, the highest read write speed I could get, but I only bought like 360 gigabyte cards though. I didn't buy anything higher than that. Because I'm a cheap son of a gun,
8-track is still popular in Japan. Man, I'd sell them. I got a 8-track player I'd sell for $45,000. It's attached to a 70 Challenger RTSE. I'll throw that in. Glass coating with the wet collodion darkroom process. Oh yeah, baby. Yeah, the fun of having tube TV.
Hey, I made a lot of money on tube TVs, and when I was a very young kid. I got into electronics early, and I was fixing all the neighborhood TV sets. I made some good money fixing TVs. Made more doing that than my paper route, that's for sure.
Yeah, you probably posted this before I said anything, Maz, man. But yeah, I don't know anything about the cards, Maz. Do you know anything about them? Yeah.
I think he said in another post that Vahagan had gotten one as a freebie, but he didn't really know how good it was. He hasn't used it yet, I don't think.
Yeah, they have, James is talking about, but they are slow. They have 2 versions. If you go over there and look at it on Nikon Rumors, the sale that they're having on those cards, or the introduction of the cards, or whatever it is, neither one of them are extremely sustained read that I know of, but one is pretty extremely extremely slow. I don't know if it's adequate for 8K video. I mean, if you buy anything that'll, will write 8K video, you're fine. But that doesn't take the same speed that writing at 20 frames per second sustained with the Z9 uses, the amount of space or speed that it uses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tube
that's an old discussion, Roy. You're right, and it does. It's putting all your eggs in one basket. So here's the thing. Me and when it comes to large cards like that, I do eventually. I'll get a couple of large cards, but it's going to be really for video. I mean, where you absolutely need that kind of space. But I'm with you. So the person that asked me about the cards asked me about he wanted to look at 1 or 2 gigabit or even 500 or 1 or 2 gigabit, 1 or 2 terabyte or 500 gig cards, and I said I don't know. Here's what I know about Delkin Black, and I've been using them, but I don't even know if Delkin Black has released a 2 terabyte card yet. Have they? I'm not sure. I don't want to know the price of it if they have at that read write speed.
That's almost one of those deals where if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Yeah. I have 128 gig cards in my Z9. Now, if I were shooting again, I go back to motocross. That's my one thing I can cling to, at least from experience. If I were shooting motocross, yeah, I'd probably eat those cards up about halfway through the day, 256 gig. And everybody's going, wow, I wouldn't, I get it. I know. Until you've shot some of these different genres, you don't know, what it takes or whatever. But anyway, but for everything else, anything that I'm shooting around right now, the 128 gig cards are fine for that. I don't have a bit of trouble. For you guys that are pros making a living out there, and I know you're shooting a lot of different things, events and things like that. Yeah, you may be able to go through those pretty quick, I would guess. But I don't know how many photos I get per card, but I haven't even come close to using them up. And I'm usually doing some video, trying to catch some video with them at the same time. So I don't know. It's to each his own, what you shoot and what you need. But yeah, you put everything on a one. I'd hate to go back and try to find a photo on a full 2 terabyte card. You better have some serious tagging going on in camera and in computer. Oh man.
Gustavo's saying Mozman's too young to remember tube testing. Well, remember, okay, how many remember going to the tube testers at Radio Shack?
Oh yeah.
Went there all the time to test tubes. And
that was my ham radio days.
Yep.
Radio Shack was my friend.
Yep. I used to buy parts from them all the time. Well, I had to buy them when I was taking electronics in school anyway. I had to build stuff, so I had to buy parts. They were the only place I could buy the parts.
I hear you, Roy. I actually looked into buying an enlarger. This has been about 4 or 5 months ago. I thought, you know what? Maybe I'd get into some more black and white film photography just to play with it. Maybe I need that to settle me down. And then I lost that urge, and I haven't looked back since. But yeah, I just wanted to see if I could recapture what I learned to do, and with film. But that's it. That if you put off stuff long enough, the urge goes away.
Or if you keep stuff long enough, it comes back in fashion. May take 20 years, but it'll come back.
Yeah,
like,
I got a closet.
Like ties.
I got a closet upstairs that I'm just about to the end. Guess what's coming back? Bell bottoms.
Bell bottoms.
I'm about all out of all the new attire, so they're coming back. Oh man. All right. Yeah. So, and guys, okay. So I've been ranting and raving about cameras, film, and whatever. I mean, truthfully, though, I mean, those that want to shoot film, that is fantastic. And my hat's off to the many that made a living shooting film. I mean, that had to be backbreaking work at times if you were busy as a professional photographer. And there were probably some meltdown moments, I would guess, shooting film when, for whatever reason, a bug flew in front of the lens at the moment you snapped the photo on a very a very small aperture, and the bug took up the whole lens at the moment of the kiss. I mean, somebody's got a story like that, I'm sure, out there, something like that with film. And again, hats off to you guys. That was quite the challenge. And it obviously, just like a lot of people want to bring up, if everybody learned to shoot film, they'd be better at shooting digital. Well, okay, but that isn't going to happen. So it's why fantasize about it. But I'm not gonna also say that you have to have shot film to really understand photography. No, you don't. And there are a lot of younger folks out there now that are proving that. So, but again, hobby, having a good time with film, I think it's wonderful. But I hate when we get into competition about, well, film is the greatest. Okay. Why are you doing that? Why are you trying to alienate yourself from the rest of the community? That's our problem right now, is we do everything we can to alienate ourselves from each other in photography. All right. That's my public service announcement. You guys can beat me up over it.
No, it's time to have the thing come up that used to at the end when the TV broadcasts were over and you just heard boo. It's time for one of those moments.
Yep. So Duncan has a 650 gig and a 2 terabyte in just their power card. Okay. Which is probably fine for everything but shooting at 120 frames per second, be it JPEGs or whatever, or 20 frames per second on RAW files. Daryl says, air shows do the same thing. They eat up cards fast. I can imagine that. So you know what? How many people saw Steve Perry's latest video? I saw something in there. I jumped up and down when I saw it, because I've talked to people about this that don't shoot anything but toads in a pond and people in a studio. The one thing that stood out to me was when he was talking about frame rates on cameras. Oh, yeah. And he shoots at 20 frames per second all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And I've tried to explain to people, I would never do that. Good. Don't. But don't beat up people that do. And don't ask that stupid microaggression question. Why would you need to do that? We know what you mean when you ask that stupid question. Anyway, if you haven't shot what I shot, then don't ask. Go out and shoot some motorsports and things like that, and then you'll find out. But the point he brought up is, and this is what I was trying to explain even in motocross, just the facial expression coming through a turn changes, or the moment that something isn't going right in the facial expression. That photo is worth 10 times more than the absolute perfect focus photo where he's railing a corner. I know you guys may not understand that. Some might. Just the difference in the expression on his face may make that photo may make it over all the other photos that were taken in that turn. So, and that's exactly what he's talking about. He shows a couple of examples where the bird's doing this, or the little turtle he was shooting.
The turtle yeah. with like waving with its flipper, and you just, he's true. I mean, I don't shoot 20 all the time. I shoot 10 minimal.
So,
and I shoot 20 on occasion. But
we've had people argue about, well, pick the decisive moment. Really? Really?
You can't react quick enough to usually pick it. You gotta be willing to shoot a few frames to get it.
So the high frame rate that people like to pick on all that, I need a camera that takes one photo every day or whatever they're, to be different or whatever. Why do people do that? Because they don't understand, or they don't do it, or have never done it. Then all of a sudden you can't do it. That's stupid. You do that. That's stupid. Well, I'm glad to see a notable wildlife photographer that most people respect, make that statement. Maybe now some people are going, well, I might not want to say that anymore. Show how stupid I am when Steve Perry does it. Yeah, I'm on a roll today. I can't help it. I don't know what it is. But anyway,
It depends what color M&M you just ate, I think.
I guess. All right.
The yellow
All right.
ones are really dangerous.
Let me get back on task here. Sorry about that. All right. It's funny. We always have more viewers when I go on these rants. I mean,
word gets out, I think.
I guess. I should do a whole 3 hour just ranting. Yeah, that would go over well, wouldn't it?
Well, if you got more views than ever, that would scare you.
Yeah. Now I get down there and Chuck's on a rip today. Oh, Mike, I just saw that. All right, Maz. I'm not gonna throw it up there in the window, but yeah. I tell you what, man, just let me know. No hurry, man. You let me know when you want to do that. Or even if you don't want to do it, let me know that too, brother. I understand that. But just let me know. Shoot me an email or a text or something and say, hey, maybe this week or whatever. We're talking about the storage chat for everybody. I know I need that. So, and I'm in a hurry to hear about it, Maz. But then again, I'm not, because it's going to cost me money. And I can't, and this is one I can't overlook. So I don't know how many of you people have, and I just showed them the other day. I've got like 5 or 6 external cards or whatever.
D drives.
Yeah. I don't know where they all went. I cleaned up. Maybe that's what it was.
It's good for the 22nd on Saturday.
22nd on Saturday. Cool. Yeah, man. Okay, that sounds good. And if anything changes, just let me know, Maz. Well, anyway, for those of you that weren't in the beginning of that conversation a few days ago or a month ago or whenever we had it, Maz, I asked Maz if he would actually do that. Come on one of the streams and talk to us about external storage, because I have a mess. And I'm not going to lie. I have an absolute, I got photos everywhere, stored everywhere on external drives, on other computers. Yeah, it's that bad. I may never collect them all. I may not even try to collect them all. But Maz had agreed that he would come on and talk about external storage for us and go from, hey, you have nothing right now and you can't afford a lot. Here's a starter set for external storage. I need something so that I can set it up, especially with all the streams. I'm going to start capturing all those as well and stuff like that. But hey, Tony, thanks for the iCloud or cloud storage. I'm not really interested in that. And again, we can get into that. We can get into that conversation when we do this live stream. I know the good, the bad of cloud, the good, the bad of external storage and everything else. But I'm not one of those people that's got to archive everything forever. If I lost it all tomorrow, yeah, I'd be a little upset, but it's not going to be the end of the world for me. For other people, it would be. And I understand that. So what I asked Maz to do, if he could explain it to me or us, just Maz, get me up where I can, whatever I have right now, I can get it all in one location. I know that kills people that we're talking about storage. One location. Well, that's not storage. One is none and two is one. But let me catch it in one location and be able to archive it there. And then I'll work on the next step of being able to back it up. But at least help me to get that under control. So, and he agreed he would do it. So anyway, guys, look forward to that. Unless something changes now on the 22nd. That's a Saturday night. And we're going to have the big storage discussion. And, I don't know if you guys are interested.
Yeah. If you're still on, Maz, try to do a comparison price wise for whatever, if you say 2 terabytes of storage, say, well, 2 terabytes of storage this way would cost this much. 2 terabytes of storage this way would cost this much. So everybody can get a feel for what you're getting bang for the buck, what you're paying for,
Yeah.
doing apples to apples with the dollars and cents.
This isn't one of those things that we can just say, one size does not fit all. And
Right.
I understand that one type does not fit all. But I think that's one of the things that we can get, Maz, you can help us with, is understanding. Here's what you get with this type. Here's what you get with this type, i.e. SSD versus spinning drives or whatever. So, yeah, none of them last forever. I know that, Roy. I get it. But, it's one of those things that everybody can join in. If you're in my shoes and you feel like I do, I'll take the beginner's kit right off the bat. Just get me something to get it organized. I mean, honestly, it's about organization for me as much as it is actual storage. I don't know if that makes sense, but we can talk about all those different things that you guys are bringing up. And a spinning drive, I think SSD is probably what I'm looking for quick access for a whole lot of what I want. And then spinning drives for, that becomes my backup too. Maybe the SSD. I don't know, but we'll talk about it. I look forward to it. And I need to do it. So, I'm going to listen and learn from the conversation. And I got to get something going here, though. I got a mess. I don't know. Anybody else in that boat? Or are you guys all tidied up and you can go find everything you want?
Well, I'm semi-tidy for right now, but not 100% happy with the speed. I mean, I got a RAID system, but it's not using SSD drives, so it can be a little slower than I would like.
Hey, yeah, Maz. Yeah, thanks, man. I know it's a lot of work, brother, and we'll make sure we give you lots of applause as you go through it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I'm tired of the mess. I'm tired of looking for photos and where's it at? Is it on the iMac upstairs? Is it on my laptop over here or this laptop? Or yeah, it's that bad.
You're going to have to send Mazman as a gift a signed bag of M&Ms that you can send to him.
Yeah. Hey, good on you, John, man. I wish I could say that, but I can't. I'm out there flapping, man. I probably have photos now I can't find. I know I took, but I have no idea where they're at. And that's the problem with me and all these little temporary fixes, the little external storage drives. So yeah, I know I have to invest a little bit of money in it. Man, it's not a lens. Who wants to buy storage when I can buy a lens? I mean, come on.
Storage is nowhere near as exciting. That's for sure.
About the time I go and make this purchase too, Nikon will drop the new camera for immediate shipment. Oh, I just bought storage. But anyway, if you guys are interested in that, so Maz, you say the 22nd, and look, understand things come up, man. So if it happens, it happens. So, but on the 22nd, we'll plan for it right now, having a big conversation. Oh man, yeah, Amazon Prime subscription has unlimited RAW and JPEG storage. Oh, I thought they had a big sale. Okay. Unlimited RAW and JPEG storage. I did not know that. Well, hey, now be ready to talk about that, because does that mean forever life, or do I have to continue to be a Prime member? And what do they do with my photos if I don't do the Prime membership? So all those kind of questions. So anyway, yeah, and then I'm sure we're going to get into some debate on, cloud storage versus hard storage or whatever. And I don't want to go into the cloud thing either. But maybe somebody will convince me I need to quit worrying about that. And it's cheap enough.
Well, that's the problem. They do get a good penny when it's a large amount of files. It's not very cost friendly.
All right. All right. But yeah, man, I do appreciate you doing that, Moz. I think there'd be a lot of good reception for that because, you know, a lot of people might not be as stupid as I am and will just flat out tell you, I have no storage system. I have storage, but I have no system. Nothing
Well,
that works.
problem is you got all those photos that we sent you, and it's clogging up your computer.
Oh, true enough. Yeah, I need space to put the review photos in it. Yeah,
You
you
know,
never
the
know.
ones
I
that
might
the ones
fall.
that you're selling on the
No, no,
weekend.
I'm not yet. I'm saving those for hard times.
Okay.
So as far as that goes, and again, I don't want to jump into too much of it today, Tony. Appreciate you throwing all this out there. But then again, what do I download them to if I did that?
That
So
cloud, that big cloud up
no,
in the.
no, no. Talking about you could download them from the cloud if you wanted to, whatever, you know. Okay. I still need the apparatus to download them to. The storage system to actually, if I want to pull them off the cloud, I got to have some place to put them. So, you know, these are good comments. These are good questions, but hey guys, save this for that night. It may be a long, we might break the record, Moz. This could be the topic that breaks the time record.
It would be fitting if Mozman helps break the record because he's the one that tracks the time. So
you know
could
what?
be
He would,
part of the one to do
that's
it.
right. He's going to make it break the record.
Yeah, he's going to make sure we break it.
Hey, okay, Tony, I hear you, man. But at this point, Mosman, don't let the cloud your judgment. I won't, because I'm sure you guys are going to talk me through it with everybody else as well. And I claim ignorance in the whole process of doing this. But you know what? I'm just at a point, Tony, where I'm probably not going to use the cloud unless you guys convince me when we sit down and talk about this here in a couple of weeks. And I'm just going to do a local storage I accept, and I'll sign the contract. I accept the fact that having a single point of storage could fail and I could lose everything.
Once you know the secrets, you have to sign. Mozman's going to make you sign an NDA.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And the other thing is once you guys talk me through what I need and I actually get it, then I have to go to work. I don't know how much has been duplicated from drive to drive or computer to computer. I'm going to have a ball with this, but I've got to get it all in one place. That's my goal, actually. We make my own cloud. My wife says I live in my own cloud. Most people will lose most of their file once. Yeah. Well, I couldn't tell you if I lost it. I've just got it stuck on some other drive. I can't, that's why I'm going to have to take a break from the live stream for a month just to sort out all my files. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to take a while. You're right. Well, no, you're not right. You're partially right, Greg. You don't have to worry about me selling your photos because I probably can't find them now. Oh. All right, guys. I think I'm going to wrap this up. I appreciate everybody putting up with me today. My rant and everything else. I really enjoy the lighting conversations. I want to get you guys more. I want to get a panel of people in there to talk about it. I don't want to be the only one talking about it. You guys, there's so many of you all that are experts out there. I wish everybody had the ability to just join our panel whenever. So I hope you guys, for those of you that can, somewhere down the road, you're going to join us, get in here live. Look, don't be afraid of it. Look, I take all the, all the limelight on me. I keep it on me for ignorance and stupid things, saying the wrong thing. So you guys don't have to worry about it. I'll take care of you there. I'll keep you safe. But yeah, more people to come on and have a good time with us. And I need to get you experts in here to talk about things. And then I can just sit over and eat M&Ms. And, just again, when you all finish, I sweep the room out, close the door, lock it until the next time. Ronald, good to see you in here, buddy. I know you've been busy, but we're getting ready to wrap it up. Oh, here we go. So you guys are now making it hard for me. Now you're going to make me work on stuff like this. I thought it was automatic. I just plug in the drive and it sucks all the photos up from all the other devices. Along with storage, you need to set up your structure for organizing. Absolutely, I do, Cal. I won't swear. If you guys help me with that to figure that out or how to do it, I can't guarantee that I'll keep it going.
Wow. Mr. Ishii in the house at 3 a.m.
All right.
All these people are showing up, Chuck, just as you're ready to sign
off.
No.
Nobody. No, Mozman sent emails to him and said, hey, join right now because Chuck's going to shut down the stream.
John's talking about the 400-4.5. So either he's doing his Matt Irwin impersonation of doing portraits from a mile away, or he's starting to take bird pictures, which I'm sure we already know he does, goes to Africa, gets pictures. So that 400 will be very nice to use in Africa.
Yeah.
So.
Man, all you guys up in the middle of the night.
I'm waiting for Ron to say he's going to put together a Chuck Talks pricing schedule for special discounted trips to Africa for like $5,000 for a week.
Yeah. Mr. Ishii, sorry, man. I'm getting ready to wrap it up. Doggone it. Same thing for you, Ronald. I know everybody has priorities, like for John, sleep, and for Ronald, work. Can't deny people those fundamental things in life. All right. 45% battery, Greg says. We got more time. All right. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm getting ready to wrap it up. But it's been fun. I've actually got to go do something now. This is all fun. Now I have to actually go to work and do something. I hope everybody enjoyed it today. Again, a lot more talk on lighting. It's going to be fun. So we'll tap this again Saturday night and see where it goes, unless something happens between now and then. But I appreciate all the likes today. Appreciate everybody coming through. We've had quite a few people go through, come and visit us, and then move on to something else. Go grab some snacks and leave the feed up. It's funny you say that. My wife asked me the other day, she said, is there any way you could do that? Well, yeah, I guess I can, unless there's a problem in the stream. But yeah, it is a possibility. All right, folks. Again, Jeffrey, thank you for joining us. Jeffrey, those you may or may not know, Jeffrey has his own channel, YouTube channel, Selective Imagery. Great therapy, by the way. I suggest no matter when he drops it, Sunday morning, get up, get you a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you like, sit down and watch it. It is therapy. Honestly, it's love it. Love it, Jeffrey.
As in that you will need therapy after you watch it.
No, man, no.
I have caused more people to go to mental institutions than anybody I know.
Hey guys, anybody, check out the description on the stream today. In the thumbnail, the description has links to all the folks that typically drop in and chat with us as panelists. And I don't know what to call you guys. Guest. I don't know. Is that it? Guest? I don't want it to be guest. I want it to be something.
Friends.
Friends.
Just friends.
Friends of the channel.
Yeah.
There you go. Friends of the channel. FOTC. All right,
Yeah.
friends of the channel. Anyway, there are links to their YouTube channels, and for Ronald, it's a link to his website. But check them out if you haven't already. And wherever you go, for all of us little folks on YouTube that are just trying to have fun and provide an opportunity for other people to have fun as well, consider a subscription if you like what they're doing. It means a lot to us, especially those of us that are struggling. And Jeffrey, you can attest to that too, right?
Absolutely. I've been struggling with my channel for a long time. Moving very, very, very slow.
Well, and that's the way it goes. You know, some people have no taste, I guess, but
Well,
anyway,
or they have better tastes and they choose other people's channels. But
no,
whatever.
only I'm the only one that can be self-deprecating here.
You know, I do appreciate all those people that are on your show that pay me a visit and make a comment on my channel. I really do. I mean, it's humbling to say the least. I appreciate it.
Gregory Franz from Cape Town. Thanks for being in here, sir. I haven't seen you before. You may have been in and I just missed you, but if not, if it's your first time, consider coming back and joining our community. We have a pretty good community going here. Not a pretty good sized community going. We have a great community. So, but if you want to join us, by all means do. So that everybody knows, anybody that might be in here at the last minute, this is AP Studios. I am Chuck Talks. We do live streams twice a week, every Wednesday at noon. That's Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time here in the U.S. So if you're international, and then we do another live stream on Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time here in the U.S. So I try to cover half the. Maybe I need to do 3 and split it up in thirds. I wish there was one time, but we could all meet at the same time in some time warp and enjoy a live stream. We just can't do that. But anyway, Wednesday afternoons here in the U.S. and Saturday evening or night here in the U.S. And you're welcome to join either or both. A lot of people do. They're in here for both. Some people can make one or the other. But I hope you guys enjoy what we do. And you'd consider joining our community. For those of you that have, you're wonderful. I'm humbled that anybody wants to watch me and hear me. And I don't know. I ain't got anything else. Jeffrey, you got anything?
No, we just appreciate the involvement and creativity of all the folks that come on this channel and chat because, as you say, Chuck, they're the ones that make the channel what it is. And special group of people. Very, very happy to. If I were to croak tomorrow, I'd be happy I met you all. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I have met a bunch of people, if it's possible to meet people through the computer and really begin to like them, then that's exactly what's happened with me. I haven't met all of you guys, but anyway, I'm going to start crying if I go any further with that. Yes. Saturday is the next show, Michael. Every Saturday. So you can always say next Saturday. Every Wednesday, you can always say next Wednesday. Every week, unless I post something saying I'm not going to do a show, but I'm going to keep it going, guys, unless I have something important. That said, thanks again for all the comments, all the expertise that you guys brought to the subject today. And I want more of it, man. You guys need to not just enlighten the audience or the community, but me. I learn from you all every week. Appreciate you. And I will see you on Saturday. God bless you all until we meet at the next show.
Take care, everybody.